everybody. Welcome back to another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here at the Smokin' Studios. Totally disregard the Summer of Sake ad. I totally didn't take it off of this one. This was a thrown together show here at the last minute. Royce, who happens to be here, Royce Neeley of Neeley Family Distillery, the distillers who make the amazing Hidden Barn. We're going to get all into that. But this show was... I had somebody back out. Paulie backed out due to another event later tonight. So just so happened that Royce happened to be literally in the air practically when I called Nate to do this, and turned out absolutely fantastic. So Royce, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me, Ron.
And tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're here for.
So like I said, I was telling you earlier before we got on here, if I dive out of here and start puking or something, I'm dealing with the getting adjusted to the altitude right now. I came from about 600 foot above sea level, and I think you said we're at 7,500, right?
Yep.
So, okay. Yeah, so I'm getting used to that. I can definitely tell a difference in it from Kentucky to here. But yeah, so like you said, my name is Royce Neeley. I'm the owner, master distiller at Neeley Family Distillery in Sparta, Kentucky. So family's been distilling most of it illegally for 11 generations. Ryan, we were illegal for a time in the late 1700s, early 1800s.
Wasn't everybody there illegal?
Yeah. We actually can look it up. It's called the Neeley Thompson Grist Mill and Distillery. It's on the National Historic Register in Pennsylvania. But after my family sold that and moved south, we've been illegal since until my dad and I opened Neeley in 2015.
Okay.
So we're 10 years old this year. We've got some 9-year-old bourbon on site aging, and at this point we're the most awarded craft distillery in Kentucky that actually distills their own product, which is something we're really proud of.
Well, fantastic. So tell everybody what the product is.
Yeah, so the ones we've got here tonight is going to be our flagship.
So, and that is everybody that's familiar here. Just wanted to make sure sound was coming out, and it appears to be it is. Just wanted to, everybody here that's already seen the show with Nate here. Yes, Nate is here on the show, but we don't need to look at him right now. So everybody is familiar on the show with Hidden Barn. This is an absolutely fantastic whiskey. We have 2 bottles in front of us. We have one called a Slow Fade. I love that you name versus just a number. So we have Slow Fade, and then we have a
single barrel.
Single barrel first year.
That's right. That one's
4 years old.
Yep.
Not that it continues to age in the bottle. We know that, but it's still aged longer. No, I should say older, not aged, but older.
So as you can see too, Nate, you like this? Our fill level, we're getting better. We're getting more accurate. So as we're progressing, but yeah, we'll start with this first one, which is a single barrel. So this one here came out into the Colorado market in 2022. Yep, and this was a 5280 Whiskey Society pick, which was Nate's Whiskey Society.
Yep.
Actually selected this entire barrel. So at the time, this was the oldest whiskey that I had that we were actually distributing, which was between 4 to 5 years old. So this one here was selected as a single barrel from that first lot. Mash bill on it's going to be 70 corn, 20 rye, 10% malted barley. This one's going to come in barrel strength at 114.
Ooh, nice and warm.
What I like about it is, well, Ryan, on that, when you nose this one, and we definitely see this a lot in our around our 4-year-old. You can smell our wild yeast off of this. So that green apple nose, apricot, green apple fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, that is strictly from our yeast strain.
So is that when you're smelling fruit in in a whiskey? Obviously, there's no fruit in whiskey,
right?
But when you're smelling that fruitiness, is that always coming off of the yeast?
It's not. It's not always coming, but it comes off of ours.
Okay.
Right. So, for instance,
I've always wondered where that.
Yeah. Well, from. Jack Daniel's, Old Forester, they get a banana flavor that comes off of their yeast strand. We happen to get that green apple type of fruit, but not everybody gets that. So it's just something that's unique to us and unique to our yeast strand that we use.
Well, I stopped myself. So cheers.
But exactly what you're looking for from a pot distilled bourbon. And what I mean by that is a lot of legs, a lot of body, a lot of viscosity on that. But it drinks below, I would never think that was 114. If I was blind tasting, I would think that was
No,
95 to
it
100.
smells hotter.
That's right.
It smells hotter than it goes down.
And that's from our pot stills.
Now, again, stupid question maybe. This will never get, it'll never be smoother than what it is now. So if you crack this 20 years from now, it's still going to be at this smooth level. It's not like a cigar where you have a 20-year-old cigar that a lot of the potency and profile and complexity is aged out of it.
So that's a really good question. And this was actually, this is a good question. And this is something that we're starting to really pay more attention to in the bourbon industry with Dusties, what we call Dusties or vintage bottles, right?
Correct.
And this is just, first time really in history where vintage bottles are so sought after today. So I was just talking with a guy down at the Bruisel Festival about, everybody says bourbon does not age in the bottle, and I agree. It does not age in the bottle like it does, as it's aging in a barrel. Correct. But does it change in the bottle over time? Absolutely.
It'll separate. I've seen really old bottles that looked like they kind of separate.
It comes back to the cork. If you use live cork, oxygen slowly gets inside of there. I mean, if you try a Dusty or try old Jim Beam, Nate, you know this, it has a different profile to it, which means it is changing in the bottle, maturing. In whichever way you want to look at it. Is it aging per se? No, it's not aging, but it does change in the bottle over time. And it's really based off of, is it stored in sunlight? Is it stored in the dark? Is it, what the temperature is around it, ambient temperature around it. And really, is it a screw cap where it's completely sealed off? Is it a cork like the old school ones are? Because definitely with cork, as cork dries out, you never want to store bourbon on its side.
Correct.
You never want the cork,
Same with wine.
Yeah. So with bourbon, you want it to be always upright. So as that cork dries out over 20, 30, 40 years, there gets slow oxygen that gets input or gets inside of that bottle and kind of changes up and goes through esterification again inside of that bottle. So yes, it does change over time. It does not age though.
But is it changing for the most part? Is it changing for the better? Or is it kind of like, so, and the reason why, by the way, everybody, we are smoking the Micallef Black Smoke In exclusive box press release. This is such a great cigar. San Andreas Maduro. Everybody here knows Micallef. So, does it, what was I asking?
Does it change for the better over time?
Does it change? So, like, for instance, there are some cigars where it gets some people's opinion go, it gets better after 2 years, gets better after 6 months, gets better after whatever. You could age a Nicaraguan cigar longer than a Dominican because it's got a better structure, and you can get really geeky with it, right? Does this age for the better, or does this lose profile and complexity the longer it sits?
So each bottle, each bourbon is different. All right, and I know that's not the answer that you're looking for. It's not cut and dry, much like it is with a cigar.
Okay.
I've had some Jim Beam decanters from the '60s that are fantastic. I've been setting for years and years that are great. I've had some, Nate, you've had them as well, that are terrible. And this goes all the way. I mean, there's a whole market around vintage whiskey and Dusties, and you really never know what you're getting until you physically pop the cork out of it, get the cork out of it, and try it. And it just depends on, once again, how it was stored. Like, what went on with it. I mean, sometimes it depends on how the bottle is.
Now, can you get sick?
Nate, I don't know. That's a better question for Brad Bonds at Revival Vintage Bottle Shop. I would pick his brain on that one, but as far as I know, no, you can't get sick. There are some old decanters though that have lead in them. They're lead. Yep.
I think it's mild.
Yep.
Mild amounts from my understanding, but a lot of times if you open a decanter, they say rebottle it sometimes.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. Fuck, I've drank worse stuff than lead probably. So
yeah, my buddy Jason Bronner, we always joke he was in the bourbon game before bourbon was cool, right? He had bourbon in the name of his restaurant in 2015. 2005. He has pissed. Oh God, probably $1 million worth of bourbon through his liver. At this point, his liver needs to be in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame for how much vintage whiskey has went through Jason Bronner's liver.
So you have you're not just some guy that showed up here without an extensive history. You touched on it. You have a super extensive history of illegal moonshining, and then you in 2015 bringing the company legal. Was it What made you want to go? Obviously, I know you didn't want to go to jail. That's probably a huge reason why you wanted to go legal and to make money, and because it's a family
Yeah.
tradition in your recipes. But what makes moonshining different than legal?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess kind of.
We've all seen the fake show.
Yeah. I've been on the show twice. Been on the show twice.
Yeah,
So
Tim.
I guess kind of starting back a little bit for me. So I grew up around it, right? And I still have family members today that are distilling illegally in Eastern Kentucky in Owsley County.
Cut
So,
that out.
no,
Okay.
they were good. No, we're good. So good luck. They've been evading this long; they'll be okay. But I do still have family members that distill illegally today. I got into it. My dad left the mountains in 1988 to get away from a lot of the illegal stuff that was going on at the time. So him and my Uncle Bones, we call him Uncle Bones, his middle brother, they ran a pool hall and was bootlegging out of it. It was, I guess, a full blown slaughterhouse. Just every night, blood and guts
yeah.
coming out. So, anyways, he leaves
Family
to
establishment.
he leaves to get family, yeah, exactly, yeah, it's like Cracker Barrel. So he leaves to get away from that stuff.
The old guy stayed there.
Yeah.
though.
And moves up to Sparta, Kentucky. It opens a construction company, and we've been up there ever since. Now, every year I would go back to Eastern Kentucky for family reunions for Christmas, and we'd meet up with the family members, and everybody would talk about, oh, this is where this guy still was at. This is where this killing took place at. And I fell in love with the history of just listening to these guys talk about it all. I mean, it's what everybody talked about.
That's intense, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I can't stress to you any more of how serious it is. It's a way of life. These guys down there are like, they're some of the nicest guys you can ever meet. I'm serious. They will give you like literally the shirt off their back, but you don't fuck with them.
That's the line you cross.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't fuck with them. And like my grandfather, for instance, he went to work in the coal mines in Eastern Kentucky
Okay.
for $1.25 an hour.
Okay.
So on a 40-hour work week, he'd bring home like $36 after
yeah, I was
taxes.
just saying it's not even $40.
Yep. He could set up a still and make more than that in one night running whiskey and bootlegging. And there's just as much danger in one side as the other. And there's really not much else to do if you're not in the illegal alcohol game or in the coal mining industry. That's pretty much all it is. And in the coal mines, it was union and non-union fought wars against each other.
Yes.
On the other side, it's moonshine, like rival moonshiners, and rival bootleggers in the law. And I mean, it's the thing about the South is that after Prohibition, pretty much the entire South stayed dry. It's like where I grew up at, there was no alcohol. There's no alcohol sold there.
And see that
No legal alcohol.
that to
sold there.
me always screamed somebody was getting paid to make that dry.
I don't.
Because
Yeah.
the whole reason for dry counties historically was 'cause somebody was getting paid to allow it to be wet.
I mean, we're in the Bible Belt down there, so I mean, even today, like
That's true.
they try to. I mean,
You're in the buckle.
yeah,
You're not in the belt. You're the buckle.
We're the buckle. So it's just the way it was, and that's why moonshine. Everybody thinks of moonshine like in Prohibition, and it was
Sure.
huge. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it stayed just as big down there all the way up through the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way to go get any alcohol was to go find the local bootlegger, right? And a bootlegger, a lot of people don't understand, a bootlegger is somebody that sells not just moonshine, but they might sell bourbon, right? They might sell Four Roses, which was a blend at the time. They might sell Kessler whiskey. My grandpa sold Falls City beer in the
They
can.
might sell legal whiskey.
Yeah, Falls City. They'd go buy it and sell it. Yep,
Oh.
bootlegging. They go buy it
Okay,
in a legal
okay.
area
I guess that would be bootlegging too. 'Cause
and
you're
haul a lot of it
legally
back.
bringing it
That's
back.
what they would do. They would sell Boone's Farm wine, Falls City beer in the can. My grandpa was known.
Boone's Farm.
Yeah, yep. My grandpa was known for keeping his beer cold. A lot of most bootleggers didn't do that, so he stayed very busy.
Wow. So, what is the biggest difference? Obviously, is it really only the aging aspect that? Because it's not like moonshine's aged in barrels, or it might very well be, but my guess is 99% of it's still white lightning.
Yeah, traditional moonshine's never aged.
Correct. So, what's the differentiation between moonshine and what we're drinking today?
Yeah. So all right. So let me start off by saying the difference between illegal moonshine and legal moonshine.
Okay.
All right. So illegal moonshine traditionally is always made with corn, cane sugar. They might add molasses. You could really add a little, anything you wanted into it.
Yep.
And when you go on the legal side of it, you can pretty much do whatever as well. It's not
Mhm.
regulated, right? So a lot of guys will buy ethanol from an ethanol plant, or they'll buy vodka and they'll sell it under the label of moonshine. We don't do that. So that's kind of the problem with a lot of legal moonshines that you see, and that's why a lot of them burn so bad, or they have to bring the proof down to 30 or 40 proof, because they're not really truly making moonshine. For us, I'm making it the same way legally as I did it illegally. We're running through our pot stills 3 times every single drop of moonshine that we make, and it comes out with that sweet corn, cane sugar. My family's always used Domino cane sugar flavor to it.
So I want to back up. What do you mean they're buying? I'm stuck on the. We're being lied to. Like when
Oh,
people go to the when
if
people go to
you
the store
if
and
you
buy
go
a
if
mason
you
jar of
yeah if you
moonshine?
go and grab a bottle of anything and you look at it, it doesn't say distilled by on it. It says bottled by or produced by only. They didn't make it.
So how can they legally get away with calling everything so
Because
regulated name wise?
moonshine's not. Moonshine is not by our federal government. That's so funny. People come to me
Oh
and they're
my
like, "Oh, I bet they make you
gosh.
change your recipe and that." And I'm like, no, it's actually the complete moonshine on the legal side is still like the Wild West of spirits. There's really no control over it at all.
Wow. I so
You can make it from 100%
I'm
potatoes, 100% sugar, corn, cane sugar mix,
potatoes.
ethanol.
That's vodka.
Yeah, you can put that and call it moonshine, and people do it. And that's what to me has really hurt the moonshine market so much
Well,
is
you're being lied to.
yeah, and the consumer, it just a lot of guys got into it early on because of the popularity of the show, and they just put out something to try to make money with, and there was no soul, no, nothing behind it, and that's to me has really hurt the legal moonshine market. Because I know a lot of guys today that make a legal moonshine that do a great job with it. They know what they're doing, right? Especially in Kentucky, small craft distillers, and unfortunately, some of the bigger known brands. I'm not going to say a name, but
Oh yeah,
if
of
you go
course
to
not. Of
Gatlinburg,
course
you
not.
can figure out who it is, right? You can see it everywhere.
But
And
just look at the bottle. Apparently,
most of the time on the bottle, it's got a lot of dust on it because nobody buys it anymore, and it's
yeah.
really hurt the legal moonshine business. Now, for us, we've been fortunate. We sell the daylights out of our moonshine. Now, all right, so that's the big difference between legal and illegal moonshine. And what I'm really trying to get at with that is they don't make me change anything. My illegal moonshine and my legal moonshine are the same product. It is the same thing that my cousin Bill Hall is making in Owsley County right now. You know what I mean? Illegally, not paying taxes on it. So when it gets to bourbon, now bourbon's a completely different animal. So remember, my moonshine is Domino, cane sugar, and sweet corn.
Correct.
So it can never be bourbon, right? Bourbon is distilled, it's a whiskey, subcategory of whiskey.
Yep.
Whiskey must be distilled from all grains. Because I'm adding that cane sugar in, that eliminates my moonshine, even if I age it in a barrel in new oak, from ever being a bourbon. Does that make sense?
Okay, say that one more time.
So my moonshine can never
Okay.
be a bourbon because I'm adding cane sugar into it on the
Okay.
fermentation process in the mash bill.
Okay.
Whereas that bourbon there is 70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malted barley. It's distilled from 100% grain.
I see what you're saying.
That's the
okay.
difference.
Okay.
So
you're
real
adding the sugar for the
yes,
moonshine
and
for the alcohol.
and pretty much all moonshine has always been made, at least from the 1900s on, with sugar added to it.
Sure.
And
sure.
so, anyways, it can never be. It's not whiskey at all. People say, "Oh, it's corn whiskey." It's not. You can say corn liquor. It makes it's that, but it's not a whiskey because you've added that sugar into it. Whereas bourbon is a subcategory of whiskey. Now it follows all the laws, right? So it's got to be at least 51% corn. It's got to be distilled below 160 proof. It's got to be bottled above 80 proof. It's got to be aged in new charred oak containers. For a lot of people think that bourbon has to be made in Kentucky. It does not. Although 95% of the world's bourbon is made in Kentucky, and we like to say that 100% of the bourbon that's worth drinking is made in Kentucky. But
that used to be a requirement, though.
no,
right?
no. That's just Kentucky has always been an area where bourbon has been made at heavily.
But bourbon does have to be at least from the U.S., though, right?
It has
Do
to
we
be from
have
the
that
U.S.
From the Scotch.
Has to be from the
yeah,
U.S.
Okay.
And the other big misconception is people think bourbon has to have a minimum age, and it doesn't. As soon as it hits the new oak, as soon as it goes in the barrel, it becomes bourbon.
Correct, but you do have what's it? 2 years of straight
bourbon,
and then 3 years of full bourbon, right?
No, 2 years is a straight, and 4 years is a bottled and bond.
4 years,
if it follows the rest of the rules for being bottled and bond. So bottled and bond Kentucky straight bourbon is the most regulated spirit As far as I know, the most regulated spirit in the world. Just that's the laws that are set out by.
What makes bottle and bond
So
different than a 6-year aged?
yeah, so in order to call something bottled and bond, remember we talked about earlier that some people buy it from somebody else and sell it. So
Mhm.
bottled and bond, you can't do that.
Correct. It's
Bottled
gotta
and
be in
yeah,
facility.
so bottled and bond must be exactly 100 proof, minimum of 4 years old, must be distilled by one distiller and one distilling season, must be bottled at that distillery. And when I say one distilling season, you have the spring and you have the fall distilling. So you can't take barrels from the spring and mix them with barrels from the fall. It also must be aged in a federally bonded warehouse, which used to be a big thing back in the day. And it must be bottled in glass. They didn't miss anything on that one. That's all the bottled and bond, right? So I mean, you're adding all of that in with all the laws that already went in to make it bourbon in the first place, 51% corn, all the stuff I already talked about. And then in order to be Kentucky bourbon, it must be mashed, distilled, and aged in the state of Kentucky.
So does bottle and bond imply better?
I think it does. Nate, what do you think about that? Bottled and bond to me is a statement that you make,
Yeah.
and to me it really it evens them up. So like when I go try somebody else's bourbon, I like to try their bonded because I can put that right against my bonded and kind of see the difference nuances between the two of them because it's exactly 100 proof.
Because you can't go buy juice from somewhere else.
That's right. It's made by them.
I mean, obviously it was created because of problems back in the day where people were putting all kinds of crazy shit.
Tobacco spit.
Tobacco, embalming fluid, like all kinds of stuff into the whiskey.
To make it, give it a color.
And people were going blind and dying, right? And so they had to create something that oversaw that you could put, this is a bonded, bottle and bond product that you knew was quality, that you knew was made right, and you knew you weren't going to go blind with. And for me, I love it. One of our good friends, Bernie Lovers.
Yep.
He's big time into bottle and bond. He certifies bars and restaurants and liquor stores all over the country. And there are so many good bottled and bond products out there that that you can taste side by side. And I think it's a standard of quality, and it doesn't always mean it's the best. Some of the stuff is some of the lower price point, and some of it's around that 4-year age. But there's some really good bottle and bond products that's out there. Old Fitz.
They're making a big comeback too.
I think so too. I think so too.
Now, is it the trust factor of bottling? I just gotta say, Nate, you got a heck of an ash on that thing, bro.
He does.
I'm trying to. I'm gonna break the record in the. There it is.
that.
Break the record. Probably I got a long way to go to break the record in here, but.
So, as far as bottle and bond, then, so does bottle and bond imply always more expensive?
Not always more expensive.
Meaning, like, if you have a hidden barn bottle and bond, am I guaranteed that I'm going to be spending $15, $20 more?
No, because today we see, a lot of times it's barrel strength, right?
Okay.
And the reason why is, once again, is there's no water added to that barrel strength. So, the volume is lower on what you're getting out of it. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's almost the opposite, I would think, just like what Royce is saying right now. It's really popular to have real high proof hazmat type, that 115, 120, 130, and it goes about right now. I'd say in the market, it's about $10 per year for cast strength. It just seems like on what it goes on the shelf, typically 7 years, like $80, like right around there. But bottle bond, most products of bottle bond, there are some higher end allocated ones, but most bottle bonds right around that 40.
I was say 40 to $70.
Yeah, anywhere in that range.
Yeah, depending on the age on it. Because once again, you can have a bottle and bond that's 11 years old too.
That's right.
The minimum's 4.
That's right.
Okay, but it's in the bottle, but it's not aging for 11 years.
No, I mean it's been 11 years in the barrel. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it has. So
yeah.
Okay. So there's no hard.
Yeah. When we're
pass.
speaking
it's
of
just,
age,
it's a minimum.
anytime from here on out, when we speak of age, it's always in the barrel.
Okay.
Yeah, we never speak of age. It don't matter to me how long it's been sitting in a bottle for. That's
Okay.
Because once again, it's not aging.
Correct. Okay. So when we're talking about then moonshine, we're not even talking. We're talking about is that even a category? Because it's more of a Would that be kind of more of like a grain brandy then at that point because of the sugar in there? Because isn't brandy just more or less sacrifice the corn and add in apples and peaches and?
Brandy's distilled from fruit as a fruit base.
But it's effectively, isn't that the same thing as the moonshine since it's so much sugar?
No, really, it's a mixture between. Honestly, it's a mixture between whiskey with the corn with the grain and rum with the cane sugar.
Okay. So that's what I was trying to get at. Is
And
get an
honestly, man, a
understanding.
lot of moonshines, I think chemically are more close to tequila,
Okay,
agave spirit, than they are to whiskey.
because
A lot of times, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So why, when you were coming in and doing this, starting this up, making bourbon, were you guys making bourbon like doing your best to barrel age, or were you when you came into the bourbon world that was fairly new, but you understood the mechanisms of distilling? Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
Yeah, so I take a moonshiner's approach to making my bourbon. So
Okay.
to me, if you can make a great moonshine, you can make a great bourbon easily. And the reason why is bourbon has the crutch of the barrel. So as long as you're a good distiller, if you can make a great moonshine, you can make a good product right off the still, right? And as long as you can then find a good barrel, you're going to make a good bourbon.
Now, when you say the crutch of the barrel, can you explain?
Because you can take some, not poorly, but you can take distillate that would not be a good moonshine, right? It's not cut the right way. We see it a lot of times, especially at the bigger distilleries, where they leave in a lot of what we call the heads and the tails, the methanol, the acetate, the acetone, the fusel oils. The barrel over time with aging will change that up and make that much more palatable and give it a different flavor. Moonshine gets no help, right? When it comes off the still, that's as good as it's going to be. So if you're a great distiller, the bourbon's great. I love to try other people's bourbons, but like if you want to nut up to me, right? And try to, chest up to me on distiller, bring me the moonshine. Bring me your white dog right off the still. And let's see, that shows me how well your fermentations are, what your yeast does, how well you run your distillery.
Yeah, it's more like baking at that point versus cooking. That's a lot more. You want more of the exact science from it, from your skill versus the ability to kind of maybe over add here, over add there, and cut corners. So bourbon allows you to cut corners more than moonshine as far as flavor profile, being able.
As far as right off the still,
you gotta be better at knowing the heads, the tails, when to pull it.
Because for instance, I'll tell you, so like on my bourbons, if I know that I'm going to let this bourbon age at least 6 years, I'm going to run it a little bit heavier into the tails because I want some of that oil to carry over, and it would be a bad moonshine, right? It'd be kind of oily and viscous. Not something somebody would want to drink, but you give it 6 years in the barrel, and it can be something special. So sometimes we will alter for what we're going to make and for instance, my moonshine's completely different. I cut my moonshine clean, 100 proof on the dot, on my tails cut on it. So we're removing all that oil out of that way. It's palatable right off the still.
And people can go and buy your specific moonshine that you're talking about. Okay.
120 proof,
and
a lot of blue flame up to your knee.
And that same recipe you guys have been rocking for a long time.
That's it. I tell everybody we hit the ground running with the moonshine. That's what paid all the bills for the first 5-6 years. And still is. I mean, we still sell the daylights out of our moonshine, while we're waiting for the bourbon to age. So the moonshine for me was always, I'm just trying not to fuck it up because the family's been doing it. I already knew how to make it and what to do. I was trying not to mess it up. The bourbons though are a representation of me. Yeah. I created those.
Okay, so this is all you.
That's right.
The moonshine's the same.
I'm running the same moonshine recipe that my great grandfather run in 1920. The same exact recipe with the same yeast.
It'd be good, Royce, to hear you talk a little bit about how do you cut tails, heads, like how do you know? Because we were talking about this the other day, and I'm like, you have to have a skill, so you have to know. But what is it that you know that? How do you do that?
Yeah, so it is a skill, and it's something that it's funny. When I hire in distillers to help me, I like to find guys that have never worked at a distillery before. Because I like to teach them the Neeley way, the way that we make cuts on it, because nobody else is doing it like we are. We use all of our organoleptic receptors to do it, so taste, smell, all that. And what I mean by that is we use a pot still, all right? So a pot still is a batch distillation. So we will take all the mash and put it inside of that pot, and then we heat the pot up. As it heats up on its way to the boiling point of water, every compound that comes off that still at a different boiling point will come off before it gets to water, right?
Mhm.
So the first one being a lot of times at sea level, you'll see you'll see methanol come off at 143 degrees. We call these the heads. So from 143 roughly all the way up to about 174, 175.
So significantly below boiling.
That's right, because ethyl alcohol is going to start boiling at around 174, 175,
Okay.
at least where I'm at. So from that time in there is called the heads. And for us, the only way every fermentation is different. The grain's different. The way I mean, there's no, at least for us, no fermentation that is controlled. We don't want it to be controlled either, by the way. The more you control it, the less flavor you get from it. We like to let our fermentations be as natural as possible.
What do you mean by control it?
Put it inside of a closed stainless steel pot.
Okay.
And keep every single thing out of it.
Okay.
You know, like the way you make vodka.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So for us, we use open top cypress, as old school as you can possibly get, and we're trying to get that wild yeast, some of that bacteria, that stuff in there that gives our bourbon its character. It gives it the funk that we like to have to it. No way it doesn't taste just like the worst thing you could ever say to me is, oh yeah, it tastes just like bourbon. It tastes like everybody else's. Like that's not what I'm being. It's never what I was going for. So anyways, so you take all that, you put it inside that still and you heat it up. So as it's traveling up on that temperature, it starts to boil off. That's your methanol, your acetate, your acetone. It starts coming off the still. So at that point there, I go over and start tasting it. All right, that's called the heads. I'll let that run off. It goes into its own container. Once it keeps creeping up in temperature and gets to where we think the good sweet whiskey's coming off at, all I do is shut one valve over here and open a valve up to the middle container. That's going to be our hearts. That's what we're going to keep. That's what's going to go in the barrel. That'll run for another 3, 4, 5 hours. Towards the end of it, as we get up around 200, 201 degrees, it starts to be more watery, more oily. Kind of smells like wet cardboard or like a wet dog. That's called the tails of the run. So we'll shut that middle valve and open it up to the other side. That's where the tails start coming out at. For us, we stop the distillation there. We don't collect the tails. A lot of guys, this is old Scottish technique, but they'll take the heads and the tails and throw them back in on the next run. I don't do that. To me, it's cheap. I learned making it illegally that it wasn't worth the little bit of alcohol you could save from doing that, because if you miss a cut, every time you throw that back in, you're concentrating it. Then if you was to miss a cut in the future, you're going to get massive amounts of heads into it.
Which heads can kill you or make you really sick.
Yeah, they'll definitely make you sick. They'll give you a hell of a hangover.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you'd have to drink the very first stuff coming off the still to make you go blind. But yes, methanol, 5 milliliters of it can attack the optic nerve, make you go blind. 10 milliliters of it can kill you.
Well, the scientific show Moonshiners always called it deadly. No, I'm just
Deadly.
kidding.
Yeah.
I watched it until it was like, all right, this is so out there at this point. But okay,
I appreciate the show for the fact that it
reinvigorated.
It did.
For sure.
You know, and I mean, I look at it today like honestly, the father of craft distilling is Popcorn Sutton. He's
was
what
on it. Or
he's
not, he was videoed.
Yeah, he was videoed. But he's the one that got everybody active in it. He really is, and I honestly think he gets no credit for it because he was illegal. But he's
Tom,
the one
is
that
he a
really,
real guy?
huh?
Tom, is he a real guy?
The
older guy.
Oh,
Tom?
Jim Tom.
Jim Tom.
Yeah, I met him. Was on the show with him. Yeah, you know, I only met him one time, and he passed away.
But they are real distillers. They are real moonshiners.
I never made nothing with him.
No, but at one time, okay, fair enough.
As far as I know, I never made nothing.
Fair
with him.
enough.
I watched Popcorn Sutton, mate. You know what I mean? We can watch him on TV. He made it.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've all watched videos. I think that show reinvigorated everybody going to YouTube and watching a bunch of his videos.
Him, he definitely made it.
Yeah.
So, and he went to jail for it, and then he killed himself, essentially over it.
Yeah.
So,
but so as you're doing the heads, how is it more important? Okay, so every once in a while you hear the, adage of, if I'm not sure, just wait a little bit longer, maybe, and then do it. If you think you're to add like one more turn, or depending on how you're doing, so it's the old adage of just a little bit more time, and versus when you think it's right. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to get at?
it does, but here's the thing that you're continuing to cut more out of it too, right? So the longer you run into your hearts, if you're like, oh, well, I'm not sure if I'm at the heads or not, I'll just let it run longer, then you're removing flavor from your hearts run that you're never going to get back.
Okay. So how hard is it to determine the head versus the hearts?
Well, I can tell you this. If you taste the stuff that I was making 15, 20 years ago, it doesn't taste anything like what I'm making today. So I've gotten a lot better at it, that I can assure you. But it's a skill that it takes to learn when you're at the heads and when you're at your hearts and when you're at your tails. And like I said, it changes based off of what you're making as well. I'm going to cut the moonshine cleaner for bourbon because it's going to be in that barrel longer. I want to give some more of those tails to it. So I'm going to let it run a little bit longer into the tails. So, that's what I love about the pot still. A column still, like your buddies at Jack Daniels over there are running, or, Jim Beam, these guys, they run on a still that's meant for efficiency. All right.
You see the glasses.
I will tell you this about whiskey making. All right. The best whiskey is made from inherently inefficient processes. Anything that makes any part of whiskey making more efficient does not ever give it a better flavor. Ever. I mean, there's none. Give me one. There's none. We've sat down and messed with it. There's nothing. The RO water versus well water. Finely milled grain versus coarsely milled grain. I mean, pot still versus column still. No. Yeah. You go buy your yeast in 5-pound bags, same thing as everybody else has.
Yeah.
And that's how your whiskey tastes like everybody else's, whether it's, good or bad. And there's no perfect way to make it. It's all part of what I like to call the distiller's toolkit. Just different ways of making your bourbon or your whiskey. But, on the column still, you make a cleaner product. It comes off the still at a higher proof. You're going to, for instance, in my distillery, in the same size distillery I've got now, I could easily make 40 or 50 barrels a day if I had a column versus 3 barrels a day off the pot still. But I'm not trying to make that higher volume. I'm just trying to make the 3 best barrels that I can make.
Okay.
That's the big difference in the pot still and the column still, is one can make a ton of barrels, one makes a smaller amount of barrels. But to me, the pot still makes a more flavorful, more viscous, more heavy, more rich bourbon than what the column still can do.
Okay, so that's interesting. So obviously all copper.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's great bourbon that comes off. We all know this. I mean, there's fantastic bourbons that come off the column still, but you're not going to get a bourbon at 4 years old that tastes like that off of a column still, right? They have to age a lot longer, and that's where age really starts to factor more into the equation, more than it does with the pot still.
Now, is it the makeup of the copper or is it just the overall what you said, the inefficiency of the process that makes it better than a column?
Well, I mean, it's the fact that a column still runs on a continuous basis, right? So you have your mash over here, and remember on the pot still, we took all of the mash and put it in the pot. Column's different. You're feeding mash into it continuously, right? And you're always feeding your beer well with more mash, so it can run all the time. It's a continuous distillation. So as it runs, you inject steam from the bottom, it creates an equilibrium and distills off, all right? So here's the big problem. You cannot make effective cuts on that column still because you're always feeding in, so the temperature's always the same. You can set your temperature at like 200 or 198 degrees, where the oil, you can, cut out some of your tails, but all the heads are always in it because they boil before the ethyl alcohol does. I've seen mass specs done on very popular bourbons that are 10 years old that have much more methanol still in them than a moonshine that was made by a distiller on a pot still in New York City.
Wow. Okay, so go back 7 generations.
Okay.
You had a Roy in there at some point, I'm sure. Another one, because you have a couple Roys now, according to your website.
Yeah, my father's name's Roy.
So a Roy from somewhere back in the day.
My name is Robert David Royce.
Yep.
My father is Robert Roy Lee. We are named after Robert Thompson Neeley, who was the 10th generation back.
Okay, so say you were able to bring back Robert Thompson Neeley.
Sure.
Would he look at you and go, "This is all balls. Just go in the mountains and do it"?
No.
Or would he go, "This is so cool. I cannot believe you're doing it at this level"? Like, would he be exhausted by the process today, or would he wish for the old process?
I think he would be infatuated with the amount of money that's being made.
Yeah, the money. I'm talking about the actual, because what you're talking about is now there's a lot more scientific knowledge behind it. They just kind of had to learn that knowledge 10 generations ago, and they learned it, or
The
they
same
failed
way.
to learn it.
My grandfather couldn't read or write.
That's what I mean. So
But he knew how to triple pot distill. If that tells you how it was passed on from generations, that's to my grandfather.
but
My
would he look
my
at your
dad's
setup?
dad could not read or write. He could not drive like he couldn't, Nate.
Yep.
My grandma had to read menus for him, but he knew how to triple pot distill. That tells you how it was passed down from father to son all the way back from
And
Ireland
that's the one
all the way
holding
in.
you in the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then, would they think all of this new fangled, as they would say, way of doing, all these young kids are doing it all this way, like would they kind of have that mentality to it and go like, I just want to make it the old way out in the woods somewhere, or would they appreciate the new process, you think? Does that make sense?
I mean, you want me to tell you about what my family would think?
Yeah,
I know.
no,
I know
yeah,
the
it's-
answer you want to hear. I'm
No,
just going to tell you.
no, yeah.
My family would look at it once again. It wasn't about preserving a heritage. They are the heritage. It was
Okay.
about making money.
Okay, so
That's what they were. That's what it was about. Would they love to sit out there on that front porch today and watch them bottles go out by the case? Hell yeah.
Okay,
Would they
okay.
love to see it? The name on the bourbon trail going? Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so
Man.
for them, it was obviously pride in the product, but it was much more about the
Yeah.
money than producing the greatest product
It was
out
about
there.
Always.
survival,
It was
right?
about
I mean,
survival,
yeah,
man.
I
That's
mean,
how they put. That's
yeah.
literally how my grandpa put food on the table and bought Christmas presents. I mean, it wasn't this, and it ain't like the goddamn show today where
So
we
we've
meet, where you and me
romanticized.
meet up. Oh yeah, and we
Okay,
shake
okay.
hands, man. Ryan, it's great. We're in the woods and we're hanging out. Then we go home, and it wasn't like that at all. First off, I'll tell you the biggest misconception on the TV show is when you're making whiskey in the woods, you don't go home. You're in the woods for weeks at a time. You stay out there because the only way, if you run a legal distillery, you know it. It needs to be run every single day to keep the yeast going, to keep the sour mash going, to keep it running. These guys would go out in the woods. They would stay there for 1, 2, 3 weeks. You heard the song, buy 100 pound of yeast. It's a copper line. He wouldn't buy 5 pounds of yeast every week, right? He bought 100 pound to get him through the entire year. I mean, that's the old way. That's what these old guys did. They didn't do what, like on the show where they meet up, make their mash in this, I don't know, plastic drum, and then go back home, crawl in bed with their wife, and hang out for a week while it runs. That ain't the way it was. The other big thing is like, I mean, you couldn't call the law to help you out.
That's
This
true.
guy's doing this, or they just shot each other, and it was very territorial. If you're making whiskey over here and you got 8 bootleggers around you, you don't want this other moonshiner in the next county over to start selling to your bootleggers. And the only way to take care of him, if he does, is either shoot your bootleggers or shoot him.
It's just crazy to me that obviously I know drugs is still very big, and yes, I guess you could kind of look at it as that. But it's crazy to me that illegal moonshine for the purposes of selling is even still a thing. I get moonshine for the purposes of your own personal, which I am very much against any of it being illegal. Fuck the government and their
Right.
damn taxes.
But to kind of go back to what you was saying, so for my family, they perfected their craft, right, to make more money. They wanted to outsell the next guy. It wasn't about because once again, you got to remember, they are the heritage that
Correct.
we're trying to preserve today.
Correct.
So for me, I'm over here now. I'm the other side of it. I'm trying to make sure it's done the exact way they done it. I'm trying to make sure I don't mess it up.
Sure.
I don't change anything to it. I was just talking on a podcast the other day, and I was like, it's, for me with the moonshine, could I possibly make a better moonshine? I don't know. There's honey malts and honey ryes and malted this, and I mean, there's so much crazy stuff today. Sure, there's all kinds of stuff I could play with. I don't do that out of respect for my family members that came before me. I do not mess with the moonshine recipe at all. I mess with the bourbons. Those are mine. So that tells you the difference.
Yeah,
at
no,
least,
that's
at least
the
from
pride.
from
Pride
my
from your
viewpoint
point,
of
yeah.
it. I get asked all the time, "Oh, what would your grandpa think of this or that?" Well, for one, I had a grandpa that worked in there with me for 8 years, and he loved every single second of it. The other one couldn't have worked in there because if you said a bad word about it, he'd have shot you. So I'm glad he was. Frankly, he couldn't have worked in the legal distillery because he took too much goddamn pride in the whole thing. But and that's just how he was. But my family, all the way back, would be proud of the fact that it's on the bourbon trail. That's what they'd be proud of. They'd be proud of the fact that the family is making money from it and not going to jail over it. Right?
Well, now you're also
Because I had a lot of family
part
members
of
who
the
went to jail
history
over it.
now.
A lot of them went to jail over it. My granduncle Charlie was a felon twice. The second time when they popped him, first time he got off with essentially a smack on the wrist because we're very connected in Owsley County. The county judge, even today, the county judge is my uncle's son-in-law, right? The sheriff is first cousin. I mean, if you're gonna make whiskey, it's good to have family members that are connected. And this goes all the way back. So he got off with a smack on the wrist the first time. My great uncle Charlie did. The second time, it was the feds that got him, and they told him, "We don't care. We're gonna take you somewhere where your connections don't help you at all." And they drug him out and took him to Tennessee and tried him and put him in jail for 5 years.
Oh, jeez, they weren't playing.
They were not playing.
So then, why do you think legal or illegal moonshine, as far as like the way the show, and again, this is not to harp the show, the way the show makes it seem like is the only liquor people are buying around there is illegal liquor. Like, why do you think it's still such a big way of life down there to actually bootleg?
Well, I
Does that
mean,
make sense?
it does. I will tell you this: I made it illegally, and I was in college selling it to fraternities and sororities and my baseball buddies. I don't know how you could have a much bigger market than what I honestly had at the
But
time.
what's the benefit from them?
So
buying?
what I'm saying is what you see on the show, there ain't nobody buying no 800 gallons of moonshine.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, come on.
So okay, so then you crushed that. So you crushed the question because that's what I thought.
That's my opinion.
That's
all
what
right,
I
but
thought.
I don't.
So you're talking like I'm making small stuff for my buddies.
Yeah.
type deal.
When I made we run a gallon a day.
Selling $5,000 in cash.
I don't know.
Stuff
Yeah,
like
I mean,
okay.
Come on.
So now we're into the Hollywood aspect of the
yeah,
show. And I appreciate you being honest.
And I understand Hollywood, and like I said, I've been on the show, and I'm not trying to speak ill of anybody,
No.
but I just, finding somebody that's got $5,000 to buy moonshine and then a market to sell it where they're not getting popped
That's what I
at
mean.
is very. I mean,
Yeah.
I see them get busted all the time, and I mean they're busting 100-gallon stills. A 100-gallon still makes 10 gallons a run. If you're just selling 800 gallons, I mean, how many runs you got to do?
Oh my God! Hold on, 90% of it's gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 It's a 10% yield is a great yield on a distillation.
Holy cow!
Yeah. The rest of it's slop. We feed it to our cattle.
So if I wanted 10 gallons of this, I would have to start with 100.
Yes. When I run 600-gallon stills, I get a barrel at a time, which is 53 gallons on a 600-gallon still.
So I'd have to distill 10 gallons to get 1 gallon.
Yeah.
Wow. That's okay. That's not a lot of yield. I thought it was significantly more than that.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that love and want to buy moonshine. Like there's still a huge market for it illegally, but I don't know who the hell's slinging 800 gallons at a time.
No, yeah,
and not getting caught.
No, I mean, you answered the question.
I mean, Popcorn Sutton was.
Well, that was also
he had 800 gallons and he went to prison twice.
It was also a different time period.
That's true.
Where it wasn't on TV and a film crew and you had to know people probably as well. But okay, so thank you very much for crushing that because that was a question. I'm like, I want to ask him this, but it was so far fetched to me that they're walking around with like 10 grand worth of liquor. And I'm like, come on, like who's okay?
I mean, Nate, you know how hard it is for us to sell 10 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's a solid order to any state any state distributor.
Yeah.
So.
You want a little bit more?
I haven't had any, man. You guys are, let me get a little.
Oh, damn, we just messed up the ash.
Oh, I fucking lost my record.
Don't worry about it. we'll call it the record.
And like I said, that's my opinion. I'm not making it with these guys, but that's just a common sense thing that tells you.
So then, when we hear about companies like Tin Cup, which is good, and then but Tin Cup is what would be considered a
Tin Cup sourced, right, Nate?
Yeah,
they don't make
that's what I mean. So Tin Cup would be so Tin Cup would be a blended.
Yep.
Or out of house blend essentially because nothing's made in house.
Yeah, what we call source. So it says bottled by on the back of it, not distilled by.
Okay.
Yep.
So
or it says produced by. Either one of those is.
So where is the? Why? Why not make your why that's like buying I guess I mean Shelby did it to the Cobra, but that's a different thing. But like why buy somebody else's product, blend it with 10 different items and then re-barrel it
So let me start off by saying that sourcing has always been around.
Mhm.
Okay, it's been around since whiskey started. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with sourcing as long as you're transparent about it and you tell people. You don't try to, like a lot of them have in the past, say, "Oh no, this is Al Capone's recipe." No, it was distilled at MGP in Indiana with the other 90% of the bourbons that are on the market out there. As long as you're transparent about what you're doing, I see no problems in it. Why doesn't everybody do it? Because making whiskey's fucking hard. It's hard. It takes a lot of money. It's capital intensive. I mean, it ain't the sexy glamour pill you think of. Like, I'm sweaty. I'm covered in dust. Take a chance on blowing yourself up. Like, it is a tough business to be in. And you're taking something that, for instance, the IRS, if I make 100 barrels this year, I can't write off the production for those until I sell them 6 years down the road. So it kills you on the tax side of it as well, besides all the taxes you're already paying on it. It is an incredibly capital intensive business.
So they
Maybe
take
the
their
most
money
capital
up.
intensive.
They
Yes.
take their taxes up front, but don't let you recognize
Deduct
the
it.
revenue.
That's right, until
They
you
deduct
sell
it
it.
until
Because
you
you
sell
haven't
it.
recognized the revenue.
Correct,
You can't
'cause he
deduct it
hasn't
until you
sell it.
recognize your revenue. That's right.
That is bullshit. They should allow you not to pay taxes on it until you sell it.
Yeah.
Because that
That bottle right there has been taxed 7 times by the time you take a drink out of it.
this
7
is why
times.
government sucks.
Yeah. Very capital intensive. So on the other side of it, it is much more easy to go out and, let's say, for instance, Ryan, you want to start a bourbon brand and you call me up and you say, "Hey, Royce, will you sell me 100 barrels?" Now, I've already aged them. And I say, "Yeah, sure, man. I'll sell you, let's say, 100 barrels for $4,000 a piece." And you buy all 100 of them and you go have your labels printed and buy your corks and your seals. And I charge you $2.50 a bottle to bottle it for you. And we pay the taxes on it and you take it to market. Now, you've got a bourbon brand in market. You didn't have to buy the distillery. You didn't have to sit on the booze for 4, 6, 8, 10 years. You didn't have to actually physically make it. You see what I'm saying? You know what you're getting when you buy it. When I started making those bourbons, I didn't know how they were going to turn out. I honestly didn't. I had a plan. I mean, I don't know if you could be more into it than I am, but I mean, I'd done everything I possibly could to try to make sure this is the profile of bourbon that I want to have. But I still had no idea it was going to turn out until 4 or 5 years down the road. I sleep a lot better now, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well,
knowing how it's turned,
great.
knowing how it's turned out, I sleep a lot better now. Now the only thing I worry about is insurance, making sure it's all insured enough, because that's the other thing that can hurt us, no matter what, down the road. If I lose my inventory, man, yeah, I have a rick house that burns down, lose a lot of my inventory. I mean, that would really, it's something I worry about.
That happens inside the cigar world.
Yeah.
So effectively, you literally just explained how non-vertically integrated cigar brands operate too.
Yep. So
I go to Micallef, or I go to BAMF, and I tell them a cigar. They already have the aged tobacco. They can make me a blend. They can give me a blend. I put my stuff on it and go.
perfect. So I got a buddy, for instance. He's available here in Colorado. Called his brand is called Dark Arts Whiskey House. His name's Macaulay Minton. His goal was to never be a distiller or a distillery. He is a finishing house and a blending house. So he takes other people's distillate, puts it in wine barrels, and he's a genius at it. I mean, some of the stuff that he comes up with, he'll take maybe a Calvados and a Sauvignon Blanc finish, and I don't know, God knows what else he comes up with, and mixes them together and creates something that is so unique and special that people thrive over it. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a place for it in the market, and I'm glad that there is. But it's just 2 different entities. It really is.
It's very, because would you ever get somebody that distills and sources? Would that be?
There's some of them that start sourcing early on to pay the bills. Like a new riff, they started early on. They said what they were doing, and then as soon as they were done with it, they sold the brand off and just went to their own stuff. That was called OKI.
Blonde Brothers.
Blonde Brothers
is a great one. These guys are great. They had MGP.
Yep.
A lot of them start with an MGP product. It's readily available, and back then
it was readily
they could
available.
get a really good lot of barrels. And they would put that under a label, and then as they were letting because like Roy said, it's so there's so much cost up front and sitting on and waiting for. You have 2 options really, right? You can do a white spirit like a vodka gin or something like that to try and pay the bills.
But the market's so flooded.
It's so flooded, right?
I mean, everybody told me, don't make moonshine. Don't make moonshine. Try a gin. Try something else. Luckily for us, once again, the reputation carried us.
Exactly.
Right?
But so you have an option, right? You can either sell a source product under a label while you're waiting for your product to age. You can make a different spirit, right, to try and that's doesn't take the aging like it does. And so the long term is yes, a lot of brands out there that distill their own product now. In the beginning, were sourced product. Now the problem is it's a different profile.
Well, and here's the funny thing about it is there are a lot of actually there's more of them that are like this than are not. That the source product is better than their own distillate when it eventually comes out, and that's shows you how hard it is to actually make your own product.
That's the learning process.
That's right. And there's a lot of them that as it's aged out, like people were like, oh man, it was so much better when it was 10-year-old MGP than their 6-year-old now.
Or your followers get used to a profile, right?
Yep.
And so like we know there's a ton of different profiles that people like in whiskey. For rye, let's just say MGP, that's usually a 95.5 rye typically. But in Kentucky, a rye usually has a lot more corn in it too as well. So if you were sourcing with a MGP rye, a 95.5, and then you put out your own Kentucky rye under the same label, well, it's going to be a different. Typically, you're not going to do a 95.5 Kentucky rye. That's just not typical, but it's going to be a different profile. So if you built a following under a certain profile, and then when your stuff comes out, it's a different profile, people are going to be like, hey, what happened to the profile that I like? This is why I bought it. But you also might have people that like the new profile, but then you've got to start over and building that consumer that likes that new profile. Right. So I think, I do think that blending, they always say blending is trending, that thing, but there is a lot of blending now that's going on. There's a lot of barrel finishing that's going on. I don't know how long that will last. I mean, the biggest thing is you have to have a good product to start with regardless, because if your product is not good, you're not going to be able to blend it out. You're not going to be able to, you may be able to, if you have massive batches, that you might be able to get some of those barrels that aren't as good as filler in there. But if you're like us, that we blend very small batches, you cannot make a mistake. The whiskey cannot have flaws. When you're blending that, everything shows up.
Yeah, when you're doing a 10 or 12 barrel batch, you're tasting every barrel that's in it, every single one of those barrels. So for us, like when I started out, I knew that I didn't want to ever be a sourced brand. That just wasn't what we wanted to be.
And that's why you said the moonshine
carried us.
You, or the moonshine carried you until you were able to, and it's 4 or 5 years down the road.
And I tell people all the time, we will never not make Neeley moonshine in that distillery. As long as it's operating, I don't care how popular the bourbons get, we will still always make our moonshine. And luckily, our moonshines are still selling really well.
And really good. Like a lot of people...
Well, now I want to try, because I guess I've never had real moonshine, come to think of it. I've bought stuff from the... Well,
luckily, that brings us to our next step. We can ship.
Oh, that's right.
We can ship now. We can ship to Colorado as well. If you go on our website, you can actually order that moonshine. Have it sent right to your
links below in the description, everyone.
Yep, NeeleyFamilyDistillery.com. So yes, we can get you a bottle of it up here to you. Legally, we can ship.
What's the holiday one that you do that's so popular? The cream or the bourbon cream that you do?
Yeah, we do a moonshine cream.
Oh my
God,
I've
seen that where you put a cream in it during as you're cutting, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. After post distillation, we add creams into it. Yep. And here's the funny thing. I was just talking with somebody the other day about this as well. So you'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, if it's flavored, it's not real moonshine." That also cannot be any more untrue.
Apple pie,
yeah.
Strawberry.
My great-grandfather lived to be 101, and one of his favorite things to drink was, whorehound candy from like get them at the general store or something. It's those little hard candies. They kind of taste like root beer.
Okay,
They look like a little barrel.
Yeah.
They're made off the whorehound. Anyways, he would put that in his moonshine. We're talking 100 years ago. He was flavoring it. So for anybody to say moonshine, is flavored, it ain't real moonshine, it's completely the opposite. Moonshine has always been flavored, or always made into like lemon drop with lemons in it, or watermelon, or something, apple pie. I mean, every distiller today that distills illegally has their own apple pie recipe. I do as well, and we stack them up against each other. I mean, and they're all different.
The only real moonshine I've ever had was a strawberry moonshine from Missouri.
Okay.
My buddy brought it up from the St. Louis area. It was still in the 32-ounce mason jars. He goes, my buddy's dad or uncle or something like that he bought a couple bottles and brought them up. I've never been in my entire life hit harder. I ate a strawberry and it was almost lights out.
And that story that you got is a story that like everybody that's had an illegal moonshine has that same story. So is there a way for a guy to still make a living doing it? Sure. I mean, you know, you can be local and small and you can be the local guy. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I mean, to get on there and act like they're selling semi-truckloads of it illegally, that's where I was trying to get with that. I mean, you know, there's a local guy every damn town in the South that people go to and still buy, and he's doing just fine. But you know, like I said, the semi-truck perception of Hollywood is
it's a little
come on now,
fascinating.
come on now.
So MGP. I don't think a lot of people. I never heard the term I never heard of the brand MGP until I really started getting into bourbon about a year or two ago, like on a heavier level. I've always been a really big Scotch guy, but about the last 4 years of the show, actually, I've been getting into bourbon a lot, and I've heard the name MGP floated. Is MGP like the Walmart of juice?
Well, here's the thing about MGP. They are, so it's called Midwest Grain Products.
But they don't make bourbon themselves.
They do. Yes.
Under their own name?
Oh, yeah. Well, they do. Yes. Remus. Remus is a brand that they've got. They now own Penelope. Penelope's got their own bourbon in it. Yellowstone.
Is now under them. Luxco.
Yep.
The Luxco product.
But before this was Seagram's. That distillery, MGP's been around for 200 years. It's just been, it was Seagram's before that.
Really?
Well, it was Seagram's at one point. It was United Distillers, I think, and then it's been a lot of different things over the last 200 years. But they've been making it and distilling it right there on site in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. You ought to see the place; it's unbelievable.
Well, it's got to be massive.
It is. Well, it's just old as hell. I mean, all the rick houses are brick. Like today, you couldn't build one and be profitable. I mean, that's how expensive it would be to build this place out. But it's all just, I mean, really old school, man. And just so happens with it, they just had a ton of aged inventory. When all this bourbon boom really started to kick off and people were looking to source, that was one of the ones that was like, hey, we'd rather sell it to you than we could sell more selling it to you than we can trying to sell it ourselves.
Yeah, because they got to go through the whole
MGP today is the most awarded distillery in the world if you take every award that everybody else has won off of their bourbon and combine them together.
So,
I mean, famous
brands. The reason
brands.
why I ask this is because when they hear people say MGP, that does not denote a lesser quality because they make so much juice from it.
No, hell no. MGP's a great bourbon.
And that's what I wanted to make sure that we touched on, because I know a lot of people source from there, and a lot of companies, like we talked about from the beginning, maybe the first couple of years until their own stuff is done. That's never going to be anything that Neeley goes through.
No.
You guys will always make your own juice.
That's right.
Now, do people source from you?
I have sold some barrel. Like for us, it's like a controlled sourcing. They're not putting out a brand. It's like they're putting out we've got a Christmas, like essentially it's buying single barrels from us, not putting out. I'm not making.
They're not bottling it.
That's right. Now there are a few distillers that I make some whiskey for. Like for instance, there's one called Regeneration Rye, and they actually don't have a brand that's out yet, but they send me the rye. They own Daniel Boone's farm, original farm in Kentucky, and they grow this rye on it. So they'll send me their rye and have me distill it for them in their custom mash bill.
Okay.
And then I put it into a barrel, and they come pick up the barrels and let them age. So did I make it for them? Sure, but they had complete control over that entire process.
Yeah, but at that point, you were more the chef than the creator.
That's right.
And that's like Bardstown Bourbon Company. There's a lot of brands that Bardstown makes, but they make it with like that their mash bill to their specs. And so if you ever go to Bardstown Bourbon Company, they contract distill a lot of different brands there.
That's all they do.
Yeah, and they don't make just their distill it and then put it under other labels. They have other people that come in with their labels that have their distill it or whatnot made a certain way and utilize their facilities to make their whiskey, bourbon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, that's all like. Again, I didn't realize how enclosed the bourbon industry was. Meaning,
very tight knit.
Like it. Yes, when I realized it when I first heard the name MGP, when I first heard that people source, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like blended Scotch, and they're trying to tell me no, it's not, because it's different still. But I'm like, conceptually,
the big difference to me, I don't want to cut you off, Ryan, but you blended. You make a great statement there. The big difference. Scotch is so funny. There are distilleries in Scotland that never put out their own product. Like they distill only to be a part of Johnny Walker or a part of.
Oh yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh,
And that, you don't see that domestically, hardly ever. Actually, you don't see it at all. There's nobody that does that, as far as I know.
You're talking like contracted distillers.
It'd be like if I distilled only for what was going to be Jefferson's. So like everything that I make, I'm privately owned.
Okay.
But every bit of my bourbon, I am selling it to Jefferson's, which is a blended bourbon that they're putting together, and they're also buying from Bardstown and this other guy who are also not putting out their own product.
Yep. They
You see that. You see that. But you see that in Scotland.
You 100%
Yeah,
do.
which is
You
kinda cool.
100% do.
Now I could see that happening in the future in American whiskey. By the way,
Okay.
I could see that. I could see us traveling down that path like that. I could definitely see that as it continues to progress.
Well, I mean, I don't. Isn't that kind of what MGP's doing though? Like they're making everybody else. They're making, or are they just making juice that other people are taking, but they're not making other juice?
That's
people?
right. They're
That's
making
the difference.
They're like there might be 30 different brands that have the exact same barrels, exact same mash bill.
We talked about this last time.
But they bought from MGP.
When you go to a liquor store and you turn the bottle around, it says distilled in Indiana. There's about a 99% chance that was made at MGP.
That's right.
And it might be distilled in Indiana, bottled in Kentucky, bottled
See,
in
if
Tennessee.
you turn that one over, it says distilled, aged, and bottled by Neeley Family Distillery, Sparta, Kentucky.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
Distilled, aged, and so everybody like this is very fascinating. I'm learning. Again, I thought I was like, oh, yeah, I know Scotch, right? Because I choked it down for about a year and a half before I decided I liked it. Because I wanted to like Scotch. This is back in my early 20s. But I'm like, I didn't realize that that the verbiage on the back of the bottle is that distinctive.
Absolutely. If it does
And
not
that's
say,
regulation that requires
that's right.
that.
And if it does not say distilled by, if it says bottled by, produced by something else, then they did not make it. If they distilled it, it has to say distilled by on
And
it.
they can't legally tout in marketing that they made it.
That's right.
They have to be honest about it.
Well, they as honest as they,
Well,
I'll tell you what,
there's definitely
to an
those.
extent.
There's definitely those that have gone the other way and gotten a lot of trouble for it. I mean,
I would say. I mean, there's a Colorado brand. I'm not gonna say what Colorado brand, but they had somewhat of their distillate, or they would add some of their distillate into a sourced brand, and then call it their whiskey, right? Because there's a piece of that or percentage of that in there, but there was a heritage brand that was the main contributor to that whiskey for a long time. And Royce said this before. I have zero problem. In fact, there's several source brands over the years that 5280 has gotten single barrels from that have been
Dark Arts is
outstanding.
great.
Yeah, because they're really good at picking barrels and they get really, really good barrels. Two, they're really good at blending and blending barrels together,
Which is an art in itself.
it is
by the
very
way.
difficult. People think you just dump
that's
barrels
gotta
in
be
and it
so
just makes
hard.
something.
Blending's taking
Yeah.
different paints and making the portrait.
That's got to be super hard.
Yeah.
And then there's finishing now, and that is a big thing too. Is getting these barrels like Royce had talked about. I think someone in the comments had mentioned, there's so many different ones, but there was a Portuguese barrel or some of these.
Portuguese barrel.
So like
We are doing a portrait. Yeah.
So I mean, but the thing is
we have a white and red.
yeah, and Hidden Barn
finish.
has a Madeira. There's a Madeira
Yep.
finish that we do. It's a limited edition that we do for the holidays. It's very good. Island of Madeira.
I just sold a sake barrel the other day.
Sake. Yeah, that's
I mean,
right. Yeah.
But the one I will talk about, and I don't mind to mention this one because like it's very open of the lawsuit they went through, was Templeton.
Yes.
So that's a brand that was sued, class action lawsuit, because they were saying they were marketing and advertising and saying, hey, we made this. It was Al Capone's recipe, like all this crazy stuff, when all they were really doing was buying it from MGP. And they got a class action lawsuit against them for
You
it.
can't boldly lie like
Yeah.
that.
So you asked me.
Yeah,
You
no,
have to.
I
You have to
appreciate
say
that.
this. Do you have to do it? No. You also can get sued. You know what I mean?
And you should be able to be sued for that.
I
because
agree.
that's dishonest.
Right.
That's Let's take, you know,
I feel like the industry's really moved a lot away from
I
that.
think it's moved far. Yeah,
I think it's moved far away. That was an earlier
Yeah.
thing that happened.
Yeah.
There was another one that happened with Tito's. You can look it up as well. That's why I don't mind saying it. Where they put on their handcrafted,
Yeah.
and they got sued for saying handcrafted because at
Yeah.
the size they are.
So define handcrafted.
Exactly, and I think that's what the whole thing was.
Okay,
you
so
know?
did that lawsuit define handcrafted?
I don't remember if they
'Cause that's a big
did they have
deal.
to take it off the bottle. I'm not sure on this one. You can look it up. Like I said, this
Yeah.
was a very public thing.
I'm not very knowledgeable on vodka.
on vodka.
No,
me either.
I'm not either. But in your opinion, just define handcrafted.
Well, I mean, I guess handcrafted would be made by hand. So if you never had a hand that touches it, if it comes out of a machine and goes on a bottling line, is it handcrafted? Definitely in hand bottled.
Okay, so I asked the question because I'm relating this to cigars now. All right, see,
Yeah.
So if you don't
mind
hand
works
roll a
different.
cigar,
It's
then
machine rolled.
exactly, then it's not handcrafted.
Correct, and the government's actually cracking down on machine rolled cigars.
Yeah.
As considering them not to be what's called a premium cigar, because premium denotes hand rolled cigar.
Makes sense.
Interesting.
Nothing wrong
Right.
that J.C. Newman, God bless their soul, they're still using machines that are over 100 years old that they actually have a separate CNC engineering area that makes parts for these machines. That's how old they are. But they cannot call themselves, those cigars that are machine rolled cannot be considered premium cigars. So that's interesting that it kind of denotes back to that. Handcrafted would be this. You put your hand on it, you hand picked the ingredients, you poured everything in. You did it all by hand, not using a machine. So how much of this process, in your mind, in your opinion, if you were making the definition, how much of the process needs to be hand driven versus machine driven?
The big thing for me is if you go in front of my distillery, you'll see a sign that says "No chemist allowed." Right? Nature and the old time know-how of a Neeley Master Distiller get the job done here. It was a cocky, arrogant sign that I had made, but I did it as an ode. I did it as an ode to Pappy Van Winkle, because Pappy Van Winkle had the same sign that said "No chemist allowed," and he knocked it down in front of his Stitzelwell distillery back in the '60s because he said that chemists and mainly the column still were ruining bourbon. It's too scientific. The art's gone. The craft is gone. They're ruining bourbon. So for me today, it's not the chemistry side of it, because as a distiller, like, I understand that there needs to be a mix of both. You can't be too scientific, right? That doesn't make the perfect bourbon either. There is no distillery in the world that's more scientific than Wilderness Trail. I like Wilderness Trail, but they don't make the best bourbon ever, right? And on the other side of it, you can't be too art and not enough science to back it up, right? You need the science part of it to know if what you're doing with your art is going to, for instance, create a funk to your product that you don't want or something. You need a perfect mixture of both sides of it to make a great product. So for me today, for what I would say handcrafted, it's no computers allowed. That's my process.
I can respect that.
My sign out front should not say "No chemist allowed." It should say "No computers allowed." That's where I'm at today with the industry, where Van Winkle was at in the '60s with the industry at that time. So for me, like, we go in every day and hand open our steam lines to our stills and control the temperature by hand. A computer does not do it. There's no computers in my whole process. We weigh the grain out.
That's awesome.
We weigh the grain out by watching a scale, right?
Oh, you mean you actually still do that?
Yes, we still do that. We add the yeast in by hand and mix it up in a bucket and dump it inside of the fermenters, And to me, that process, I think, makes a better product.
Oh, here, stand up for a sec.
Oh.
Your pad fell, and that's what's making
Oh.
you fall. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
To me, that makes a better product.
Sure.
Once again, though, I can't supply bourbon to 15 states. If I wanted to be a Jim Beam and supply it to the world, then you can't do all that. They're just too different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So there's a scalability side
Of course.
to being that handmade.
Let's give a scale. I mean, if you're Jim Beam or Heaven Hell, you have a giant column still, you are producing 2,500
Barrels a day.
barrels a day. 2,500 barrels.
I'm
a
making 2 to 3.
day. Yeah, there's a big difference, and you
Oh,
cannot
so
you can't
just a
do
little
that
bit
being
less.
Just a little bit
handcrafted
less.
and going to the scale and wearing out the grains if you're gonna make 2,500 barrels.
But so would you? There's such a name as in the cigar world as boutique cigars. would you consider 2,500 barrels a day? Obviously, not boutique in my opinion.
Right.
Would you consider this? Is there a classification of boutique bourbon, boutique whiskey? Like, would this technically kind of fall under that with your with the amount of yield you are doing?
Yeah, I think we're truly what you would call craft, right? We're truly craft.
that's the term, the verbiage difference.
Artisan craft, you know,
not boutique,
right.
But it would be artisan craft. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Versus, you know, your heritage distillery, your massive heritage distillery.
See, in cigars,
who also still makes a fantastic product as well.
And some of the heritage brands now are doing some craft
They
products.
Are. The Jim Beam. I talk about Jim Beam a lot.
Let's talk about Freddie Noe and some of the
Because I
things.
respect Jim Beam so much.
Yeah,
But they have a craft distillery on site now where they're experimenting with
and
stuff.
Freddie Noe is working in there.
Sharp
and,
as they come.
Yeah, he's
now,
great.
how much are you guys all friends with each other? Like, how much, like, are you like friends with Stephen Beam? Are you Are you friends with the people at Penelope? Like, or is there like?
I feel like at this point we all
competition.
Well, I mean, there's always competition,
but friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I just hung out with Steve Beam last weekend, and me and Nate were eating pizza with him in the back of his booth at the Bourbon Festival. Freddie Noe invited me to sit on a Bourbon's Icon dinner at his house 2 years ago at the Bourbon Festival.
Yeah.
So the respect and camaraderie is there. Again, very much like the cigar industry. You guys help each other. You guys you talk to each other. You're friendly. There's obviously bad players in the organization, I'm sure.
But the Kentucky bourbon business is so tight knit and so close and so old school that, like, the carpetbaggers that are trying to move in, right? They just, I mean, it gets figured out really quickly.
And if you burn,
a bridge,
a brand or a bridge, you're done.
Like, I can never say more. Like, don't be an asshole. Yeah. Not being an asshole has helped me more than anything.
Because you guys will talk to each other.
Yeah, we all talk to each other.
There's also historic points in time where, like, Heaven Hill had its fire, and a lot of the distillers around there supported them to help get back on track to be able to still continue distilling their mash bill and their product through that.
The way I've always felt about Kentucky is it's Kentucky versus the world.
Yeah.
That's the way I've always looked at it. I mean, you know, I've never felt like another craft distiller was in Kentucky was a competitor as much as I'm glad to see what they're doing. You know what I mean?
And I think just like we talked about this with 5280, like, we want to raise all ships. Like, you want the spirits, you want whiskey, the category, to continue to raise, bring people to the category. And so you're rooting on. I mean, we're friends with hundreds of different distillers.
And don't get me wrong, there's great bourbon made outside of Kentucky as well.
That's going to be my next question.
Deerhammer,
Lenny,
Colorado.
That's a Colorado.
Lenny Eckstein, fantastic distiller. Adam Stump.
Up in
Buena Vista.
Buena Vista.
Yep. Great distiller. Makes a fantastic single malt when he does. Adam Stump, Stumpy Spirits, Old Monroe. Fantastic bourbon, Illinois.
Yeah.
Kings County, Colin Spolman, New York. That's one, maybe allegedly might be that moonshiner I was talking about earlier, you know, with the mass spec. You know, there's good whiskey made all around. But, you know, on the Kentucky side of it, we've always kind of looked at, at least for bourbon, you know, we're trying to preserve and get people to drink as much Kentucky bourbon as possible.
So, why is it the water? Like, why do you feel that for the last 200 years, 250 years this country's been around, Kentucky, Tennessee have been the bourbon capitals of the world? I don't think that's
I do think it's definitely the water, right? So we set on a limestone branch that all of our water filters through. It removes iron. If you have iron in your water, it will turn the whiskey gray. As it moves through that branch, it picks up calcium and magnesium. Those minerals allow the yeast to survive longer in the mash. The longer that the yeast can survive, the more complex flavors they can produce. It's also why they say that mineral-rich water creates mineral-rich grass, and that's why our thoroughbreds have such strong bones. That's, you know, just kind of part of that whole agricultural side of it with Kentucky. So that's reason number one. Number two, we have the perfect aging environment. Like, even to where Colorado is, or definitely some of my buddies in Texas, like, they have a lot harder time dealing with, for one, the water. You know, they might have to treat their water or change their water up. You know, definitely like in Florida, but like, you know, their aging environment down there, it's hot all the time. So their evaporation's rapid. Their maturation happens quick. You know, it just creates a whole nother different type of whiskey and different problems to have to sort out. Whereas Kentucky, we pretty much get the perfect 4 seasons. We get a cold, dry winter, we get a hot, humid summer, and we get a spring and a fall. And that allows the whiskey to move in and out of that oak as it constricts when it heats up, as it evaporates and pushes into the oak as it heats up, and then when it gets cold, the wood constricts and pushes it back out. And that in and out allows it to age. The third reason, and the less talked about one, goes back to that wild yeast. We have natural yeast strains in Kentucky. This is why you see a lot of Kentucky distillers with open top fermenters.
Okay.
Because we want that wild yeast, that natural yeast, the Kentucky microflora, to get inside of our mash and give our product that Kentucky style profile to it. And that is one of the main reasons why. I mean, I can go out and catch a yeast strain in the mountains that will make a 10%, 11% beer. That's not normal. That is pretty unique to our area, and I think it stems all the way back to the fact that it's such fertile ground. It's the Ohio, what do they call it? The Ohio River Basin. You know what I mean? It's where all the agriculture was taking place at when the country was founded.
Yeah.
Now, if I was to put and again, this might be a hard question because I guess the better question is, if I was to put a authentic Colorado or authentic non-Kentucky bourbon, meaning non-sourced, right? Would you be able to tell if it was Kentucky or not?
I do think I don't know if I can definitely tell. I do definitely think I can tell that it's Kentucky or not. Okay. I mean, and here's the thing, like, each area has done such a good job. I think the Colorado distillers are doing it the right way. Like they have a profile that's starting to come of their own. You see this in New York, Empire Rye, like a profile of a rye whiskey that's very unique to New York.
I think you look at it this way: wine is in different categories, different places, right, where it's done. I think it's the same thing with whiskey. Now the difference is they've been distilling whiskey in Kentucky for a lot longer than they have in Colorado, right?
Sure.
Some of the oldest distilleries making brown spirits in Colorado are right around 12 years now, I think.
Probably
12, getting into that 13 Peachtree, Laws, some of these like Stranahan's, like these guys have been around for a while now. They're starting to really fine tune and learn. They had to learn over time at this altitude, with this high desert, like with the evaporation, with the maturation, all of those things. They had to. They didn't have hundreds of years to, like, that Kentucky's had and been known to what works, what doesn't, the climate, all that. Same thing with Texas. I think when Texas first started, a lot of that whiskey was extremely hot,
over oaked,
very over oaked, and all that. There's some really good whiskey coming out still. Austin. What's the cowboy?
Garrison Brothers.
Garrison Brothers, and I mean, that's very quality.
Damn, I don't know why. In my opinion, the best one down there, the Liquors Brothers.
Yeah.
Damn, why can I not think of the name of that?
Not Iron Root.
Iron Root. Sorry,
Iron Root. Iron Root. So I mean, these are. So I would say it like this. I think if you want to do a really fun tasting, is to take some of these different areas of the United States, the product that was distilled there, and do a blind and do a tasting there and see if you're getting differences and subtleties, and then kind of reveal that. And I do think that each area has its own characteristics, and it's not good or bad or worse or better. It's different for that environment, and we're obviously Kentucky. I love Kentucky bourbon, and that's my profile, and I love it. But there also are some other brands out there from other states that I actually think are fantastic, and I love too. So
Jack Daniel's is putting out some fantastic products. We were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too, Ryan. I think this is incredibly important, and it's something I watch a lot as a distiller. I do not drink my own products all the time, right?
I respect that.
Well, if you do, your palate starts to develop only towards that,
correct?
And you can't see problems with your product. It's easy for me because I guess if you call it, I'm a tater at heart. I love bourbon. I was a fan of bourbon before I even started distilling, or at least getting into the legal side of distilling bourbons. And I still love trying different bourbons today. Hell, we were just talking about that VVS.
Yeah.
That very, very special Old Fitzgerald. I just tried. I really liked it the other day. So it's important to try a lot of different types of bourbon. To develop your palate.
So.
Probably the same with cigars, I would assume.
I was going to say that's very, very much in line with everything with bourbon. and the great brown liquors of the world, right? Bourbon, rum, Scotch, cigars are. I can't speak so much about the rum distillery side, but I feel like the more I learn about, it's very similar to cigars.
I went to a class at New Orleans Bourbon Festival. Maggie Kimbrell taught it
Maggie.
about pairing. She teaches it every year, pairing cigars with bourbon. And I was just getting into cigars. I'm still trying to learn as much as I possibly can. But she was pairing it with different ones, and I'll tell you, in my opinion, one of the best, like the Swiss Army knife of a starter bourbon to start pairing with any cigar is Four Roses Yellow Label.
Oh, that's. I mean, that's
I think
kind
so.
of a,
I love
Four
Roses.
Roses is like a. It's the Glen Macallan. It's the standardized bourbon. Like when people ask me what should I start with, I'm getting Four Roses. Like it's kind of a baseline.
I would say
that's my opinion. It's a baseline.
Yep.
When most people started with Jack Daniel's No. 7, white label,
It's only 'cause of
Evan
Coca-Cola.
Williams, Jim Beam, white label, like what I mean. But that's where a lot of us started back in the day, right? That's what we call it, whatever, high school, college.
Like you said, you weren't drinking it neat. You were mixing it.
Yeah, it was mostly mixed, but definitely, I think, as you were saying with that, and I totally forgot where I was going with that, but I mean, the reality is that it's evolved to like Four Roses Yellow Label and Evan Williams White Label and those. I still can pour that, have that neat, and still appreciate it.
I
absolutely
Four Roses
appreciate
Yellow
it.
Label's a fantastic.
Now,
pour.
if you want me to put Four Roses, and they don't call it Yellow Label anymore, I always mess
true.
up the new name of it, but I always know it as Yellow Label. And
Is it small batch now? Is that what it?
because the small batch is that other one that they have. But the thing about it is that then put it against Al Young, the Al Young 50th anniversary and Yellow Label. It just shows you like one distillery how they can have different products and SKUs that can produce unbelievable whiskeys.
I mean, Ryan, look at the difference between those two bourbons. They're
Mm-hmm.
wildly different. I mean, just given a few more years of aging.
Big time.
They're huge. They're big time difference. This slow fade over here, our newest batch out, is, in my opinion, some of, if not the best bourbon that we've been able to put out so far.
This one actually feels a little warmer than this one.
It's funny, ain't it? Huh?
It is, and it's not.
Yeah, no, it's
But
not.
in the throat, it feels a little warmer.
It gives you the hug.
So, oftentimes when I first started getting into bourbons, drinking everything neat, because I don't even use ice anymore. I originally went to ice, and then now I just drink everything neat. I always tell people, they're like, "How do you get past the burn?" I'm like, "Well, you just gotta drink it.
It really
Like you just gotta get that first glass down, and then that second glass you can. What do you want?
We're looking for a torch.
Oh, right here.
I told you I'd start talking. I always put my
And so, like, I always tell people, and this might be completely wrong, take like a half a shot, get your throat, get that burn out of the way, and then you can put it in your mouth and hold it because that shock is gone.
So we always, like when we do a tasting at the distillery, we always teach a three sip method to start out with, always. So your first sip of any bourbon, moonshine, any type of spirit is going to shock your receptors, right? It really is a shock to the brain, it's a shock to your mouth. So you want to swish that around, swallow it, like you said, deal with the burn. A little sip of water behind it is fine. And then we always encourage another small sip as well. It's the third sip where you can really start to taste. And then it goes kind of that way all the way through the tasting, whereas until the end of it, you start getting palate fatigue, where it all starts tasting more similar as the palate is wearing down. So that's the way we teach a three sip method to anything that we try.
After my third glass, I break out the cheap stuff.
Fair enough. a lot of people do.
Yep.
Absolutely,
It's not
dude.
bad way to do it. And the other thing, just like you said before, you started drinking it neat, and I was making it clear there's some distillers still, some heritage brands, some people that have been doing this for a long time that drink it on pebble ice or like on ice.
Fred
or
Nose says drink it any damn way you want it, and I agree with him.
100%. It don't matter.
It's what I tell people with cigars, where they'd be like, "Oh, how did you get that flavor complexity or that flavor profile you described in the cigar?" I look at them like, "Did you like it?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did. So who cares what you taste? Like, you liked it.
That's a good point, Ryan. And bourbon and cigars, I'm assuming, are very similar in this, is that the influencers, right, the people that are out there that tell you this is a great cigar or this is a great bourbon. Sometimes you're getting paid to do. You know what I mean? It's really what you like, and that's what I tell. I mean, just try it. Don't. Who gives a fuck what this guy says? You know that it's worth this or that or try it. Agree. See what you like, and if you like it, great. If you don't, try something else.
Yeah.
I've never been upset at anybody that tries my product and says, "Oh, it's not for me." Be respectful about it. Hey, it's not my profile. I try bourbons all the time that are not my profile. And then I try other ones that are my profile. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. But to go, just don't go in there and be like, oh, it tastes like a fucking wagon wheel or something. People are,
that sounds good, man. Wagon wheel.
Wagon wheel, whatever.
I'll say this, with 5280, I probably selected over 200 single barrels in time. Probably about 225 single barrels. My profile, and I'm picking for a whiskey society, many different palates. I learned very early on that I like more of a spicy kind of thumper, and that is not consistent with a lot of our members. So what you learn is that there are many palates out there. Mine is not the right one. It's just what I like, and it's okay. That's what I prefer. I like this profile. I like this heat, or I like a little bit more cinnamon, or maybe I like kind of those spices. And somebody else may like really that vanilla or really caramely or the sweets, and that's okay too. And so I think the best way is to try for yourself. Some of these bottles are expensive, so if you can go to a bar or a restaurant or a friend's house that has a lot of whiskey and say, hey, pour me a couple.
Yeah, go to Nate's house.
I have a few.
Go to Nate's garage.
I got a couple things, but I mean, there's people that have way more than that. But you go there and you say, hey, pour me 3 different ones blind. And that's the other thing. I think it's always important, too, sometimes to taste blind, because you can get something in your head. Someone will say, oh, you're going to taste this, and this is what this will taste like. And then I taste like, okay, well, I don't know if I got that. But, yeah, this tastes like dried old dirty raisins, and because that's what someone put in my head. But if I do them blind and I do my own tasting, that's how you start to build kind of your profile, what you like.
Totally.
And do it
I
that
was thinking about this the other day as we were at the Bourbon Festival. I almost wish that I didn't even tell anybody that it's a Madeira finish or anything.
Be interesting to see.
Just try, because I'm proud to talk about what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, it's rye and it's this. But every time you tell somebody age, mash bill, they start getting a preconceived notion, and it really does affect. I mean, it really affects how you taste.
I would say age is the biggest one. That's the biggest mistake that people make. And I will tell you this: of all the barrels we select with 5280, we do it blind. I don't want information. I don't even want what floor it was on in the rick house. I don't want mash bill. I don't want proof. I don't want to know any of that, because if someone says, if you're sitting, I've seen this happen. It's a mistake that a lot of people make when they're picking single barrels, groups out there or different stores or whatnot. They'll be like, they'll taste like 5 barrels, and they'll be like, oh, I really like this one. We like this one. Then they'll reveal what it is, and they'll be like, well, this one's 140 proof. Oh, well, we've got to get that. That's hazmat. Even if it was the 4th best tasting of the batch, they taste it because it's either higher proof, or this one's 12 years and the one you guys select is 8 years. And I think that a lot of times that's a big mistake. Age Scotch, it's a big thing, right? Age is a big. Bourbon, the sweet spot for bourbon, I think, is between 5 and 9 years of age.
I agree.
Now, you can have...
I was going to say 6 and 8.
Yeah, 6 and 8. There, you can have bourbon that goes over that. But most of that bourbon that goes over it is probably stored very low on the rick, and the temperatures are less, so they're doing that intentionally because the angels share. And Royce can talk more about that. But
I've had really bad bourbon that's 4 years old, and I've had some really damn good bourbon at 4 years old.
Sure.
And I've had some really good bourbon that was 15 years old, and I've had some bourbon that ain't worth
just
pouring out.
Oaky,
at 15 years old. I mean, tasted like a hospital smells at 15 years old.
Yep. Well, I know, like what I've read on Scotch, because he brought it up around age. Most of your hardcore Scotch guys, like inside the distillery, from my understanding, stop at 18 years, and they say anything over 18 is bragging rights only.
So look at it this way: we associate we associate Kentucky and Scotland as 1 year in Kentucky aging is the equivalent of 3 years in Scotland because of the climate. What is it in Scotland? It's normally cold. It's damp. It's rainy, right? You don't get that in and out of the barrel like you get in Kentucky.
Okay.
So 1 year in Kentucky, equivalent to 3 years of aging in Scotland. So that would mean that your 18-year prime point is dead nuts to what Nate said.
Yep.
That'd
Yeah.
be 6 years in Kentucky.
Which is a sweet spot.
I had never known that, but yeah, I've always heard that like your hardcore. Like I got a buddy who's got a hell of a collection, and he actually tested me. I thought I was so cool. I bought a 21-year bottle of Glenlivet. It was the most expensive bottle I ever bought back in my early 20s. And I call him. He goes, "Yeah, that bottle wouldn't even make my collection." But he goes, "But with that said, it's a good bottle. You know, drink it. Tell me why you like it." So I drank it, and I told him. He goes, "You just described every bottle pretty much out there of Scotch. So why did you like it?" And I was so virgin in my understanding. I was like, I don't know. He goes, "I'm not." He tells me, he goes, "I'm not a crazy into like the notes and this." He goes, I buy it because other people want it." And he goes, "You know, I'll buy a $5,000 bottle. It tastes or whatever thousands of dollars a bottle of bourbon or Scotch, just because other people I know are going after it." But he's like, I'm not experienced enough. And I say this with the question of, are there actually a lot of people experienced enough to determine and actually understand what that aging process brings to the table?
I'll be honest.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'll be honest with you. I'm hard pressed to find a bottle. I really am. That is, in my opinion, worth more than $100.
Yep.
Because there is so much bourbon that is so good out there for sub $100 that it is so hard for me. Like, man, if you're gonna buy, if you're gonna buy a $3,000 bottle of, you know, a
Whatever.
bourbon made in Frankfort, Kentucky, that I love the distillery, I love them. You're probably going to be really disappointed in the way you spent your $3,000 because there's just so much bourbon out there that's so good.
I think that you made a good point though, Ryan. Is there's a buzz, and there's a buzz out there about certain brands, and I'm not
FOMO,
going to
fear of missing out.
and it in a market like you just said, how many people could sit down and be able to say, okay, I'm going to pour you 5 different Kentucky distilleries, and I want you to tell me which distilleries that distillate is from. And there is a very small percentage. I don't care how much whiskey you drink, and I would say even some of the people that work at those distilleries, like that, it is difficult to be able to take it in a blind tasting and be able to say, okay, this is Heaven Hell, this is Jim Beam, this is Old Forester, this is. I mean, there are certain notes that people think that they have and stuff, but when you're doing it blind and you didn't pour it yourself and it's out there. So I always say this to challenge people on this. If you get a very highly allocated bottle, and we've done this many times in my garage, many times with the society, where these are people that are kind of the next level, that connoisseur, that have drank a shit ton of whiskey, and you put a blind lineup down and you say, okay, maybe we've got a Van Winkle in there, maybe we've got a BTAC in there, maybe we've got a Four Roses limited edition, some of these, and you taste them blind, a lot of times they're going to choose a different one than what they thought. And all of a sudden you're going to surprise them. They'll be like, what do you mean? I like this one. This Heaven Hell 7-year bottle and bond was my favorite. And it surprises them, I think, a lot of times, because there is this marketing out there, a very good marketing out there for a lot of these. And I'm not saying that those are bad, because every one of those I just named are very good.
They're all fantastic.
Very good whiskeys. But
let's make a good point here.
Yeah.
They're all fantastic whiskeys that most of them MSRP for under $150.
And usually
it's the secondary that
the secondary does, because honestly,
literally all the BTAC's under $200.
it's like
right?
$129
there you
retail.
go. Yeah.
I mean, another one, we're getting ready to do an event with.
I would gladly pay you $130 for a George T. Stag.
100%, right?
But I'm not gonna. I don't know about.
You gonna pay $800, $900
I don't
for
think
it?
so. No, you know.
And I think the same thing is we're getting ready to do an event with Dan McKee, Master Distiller at Michter's, and he's a great guy. And one of the things in the lineup is going to be, and I know this is live, so I shouldn't say, but one of the things in the lineup is going to be a 20-year.
Okay.
20-year. And it is, I've had some of the best bourbon I've had has been some of those 20-year Michter's.
Yep.
But the price for it retail right now, it used to be like $600-$700. It's $800. I think if I could even find it, it's such a, and the reason why it's so priced high, it's so limited. The quantity is so limited. That's what makes that price so high, because maybe they only have 500 bottles worldwide or something like that when they do it, and they only take certain barrels to make that. But the secondary on that is $5,000.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to spend $5,000 on a 20-year? And I mean, it is good. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
fucking incredible. And $5,000, and I know in the Scotch world, it kills me that there are bottles there that are $1 million bottle.
But Vinny,
yeah.
but Vinny's got a $50,000
I mean, that's
50
nuts.
year.
That 50-year, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's because we go with the philosophy that whiskey's made to open and share.
Yeah.
Now, there is a commodity to whiskey. That market's gone down a little bit, but at the height during like COVID, the commodity of whiskey was one of the biggest profits for people that were selling whiskey on the secondary market. So it created that buzz on some of that stuff. But again, for me, there's so much good whiskey out there. A lot of good whiskey under $100. A lot of good whiskey even under $80, like $75, $50. And I think that do some blind tasting, and put some of those up against each other, and kind of find out that it's a good eye opener on some of that
And
stuff.
I just encourage you, do more than look at a fancy bottle and label.
And see, that's it's very much again in the cigar world. Fancy bottles and labels don't denote quality.
No, not at all.
Well, that's my problem with cigars. I like the pictures on them.
And don't get me
that's
wrong.
how I pick.
Hey, like that VVS though.
Oh,
there
it's
are
beautiful.
Fancy bottles
Oh,
that are
fucking
that
beautiful.
stand up, so they're still great. But I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Old Fitz is
go
great.
out there,
Yeah.
go out there and pick the brain on some craft distillers and do a deep dive in.
check
and,
it out.
Try
Do
some
it for
stuff.
yourself.
Now, since we brought up 50 year, that is a 50 years means it's stated the barrel for 50 years.
That's right.
So the reality of it is you're not paying for 50 years, you're paying for all the loss.
Yes.
So you're
By
buying
the way,
a 50-year-old bottle and you're paying for everything the
Taxed
distiller
every year.
lost.
By the way, well, no, it's not. The only
Oh.
place that taxes barrels is Kentucky.
Yeah, but you're
Oh,
paying
in the
for
world.
your.
Oh
Kentucky's the only
shit,
place in
not
the world.
Scott.
If
Okay,
you
yeah,
lose
yeah.
90% of that barrel, you only got 10%. Now
Well,
that's got that
There'll be a lot
10%
less.
has to make up.
So
the
remember
cost.
when we talked about the aging. So Kentucky, it's not possible to get a 50-year.
You'll be dry
It would be
barrel
dry.
at 20
Oh,
years.
for sure.
15 years, a lot of barrels are
I don't
dry.
know in Kentucky if you can naturally get a 30-year bourbon, like naturally. If you didn't put it in a tank or you didn't chill it down or move it, if you just strictly put
Climate
it
control
on the
most
bottom,
likely,
if you put it on
yeah.
the bottom rick of a rick house, I do not think it would make it 30
Yeah.
years.
I
in
think you have to
Kentucky.
have climate
Okay.
control on it, refrigerated
So-
probably.
Yeah.
Stupid question, maybe here. Could you take it airtight with staves?
Well, I mean, they do it today. I mean, like Nate said, there's Buffalo Trace is doing all kinds of different really cool experiments, and they're going to have a 50-year-old bourbon,
But it's refrigerated.
but it's in a refrigerator.
But
Yes,
could you
controlled.
have a airtight
It wouldn't
container
age.
with staves?
It won't age.
It wouldn't age.
No, you need
What's the
option.
temperature it has to go to
Okay.
work the wood, Royce?
Okay.
Well, I mean, it depends on the distillery.
Okay.
So
know.
you can't have airtight. It
They
needs
say
that
below
breeze.
like 60 degrees or something, it doesn't
Kind
move.
of becomes docile.
Yeah, but
just
I-
sits. Yeah, it's tough to say.
I think you need the cold to get it out.
Sure.
You don't want, they heat cycle a lot of them, and
Yeah.
but I mean, once again,
That's another thing. I mean, talking about like when we talked about handcraft or whatever, there are now rick houses. They're all different kinds of rick houses. Even in Kentucky, you've got all different levels, floors. Some have 7, some have 4. Four Roses doesn't have a rick house above 1 story,
I'm one story.
and
I'm just six ricks high.
that's it.
That way, our
Okay.
temperature is almost the same at the bottom as it is at the top. Gives us a uniform aging profile.
But let's say you go to like Deatsville at Heaven Hill,
Oh yeah.
the top might be 80 degrees different than the bottom rack.
The bottom is probably can be 75 degrees,
Yeah.
whereas the top can be 135
Yeah.
in the summer easily.
Wow.
And that influences obviously that whiskey greatly, and angel share and all of those things. So
what does it mean when somebody says re-released a devil's share? Or re-release that? Is that all gimmick? Is that, and you could just say it.
well,
it's
devil share, the devil share right is
Is
what's in
the
the
barrel.
wood. It's in the
Correct.
barrel.
Tradition-
Traditionally, the
Yeah.
devil's cut's what's left in the oak.
Correct.
I don't know enough about the Jim Beam product to speak on. I don't know
either.
anything about it.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you it. Sometimes you just use common sense. Right?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
just,
why I was asking.
'cause I
would
mean,
think if
there
it was
are-
viable, everybody would do that.
Yeah, I mean,
But does it make it? I mean, does devil's cut, is that better than?
One thing
It's harsher.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
one thing. One thing I've thought
I don't
about
know.
is one thing I've thought about with well, just in general with like aging water.
Yeah.
Or is aging? So I have these used barrels.
People do that process. Yeah.
And put water in it and let it age. Because Devil's Cut made me think of it because you're going to pull the Devil's Cut out, right?
Yeah.
What they call swill.
Interesting.
You know, it's illegal to do. So, you know, if you're going to sell it or because people do that. By the way, they buy barrels, they'll put water in it, roll it around out in the yard, let it heat up, and it'll end up being 80, 90, 100 proof. The
No
water,
shit.
It'll draw it out, draw the Devil's Cut out. Oh yeah, because it's in the oak, and then they'll sell it. They're called swill.
Oh my god.
Yep.
I had no idea that you could.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Nasty. I mean, I think it's
new to me.
putrid. I'd rather buy a gallon of moonshine for right now a good gallon of moonshine should still go for $100 a gallon on the black market easily. I'd much rather have that than some swill, but they do it.
Yeah.
But I've always thought like if you age your water a little bit, then when you cut it down, it won't dilute your product as much.
Okay.
Like with the
aging
flavor
water in the
Yeah.
barrel.
It'd be
and
expensive to
then-
do, but you got to use barrels.
We don't. We haven't even really got into the barrel piece of this either. I mean, that's also a huge factor in aging. I mean, with the quality of the barrel,
You
the
cannot-
seasoned oak.
So Nate, you cannot make a great wine with a mediocre grape.
Yep.
It's not possible. You cannot make a great bourbon with a mediocre barrel.
So what makes a good white oak? What makes a good white oak tree?
So for us, it's the seasoning that's done on it, right?
What does that mean?
So they cut the oak down, right? They cut the tree up into staves, but they're flat at this point, and they stack them out in the yard, in the stave yard, and literally let it weather on them.
Like crack and check.
Yeah, well, I mean, they let it, rain, snow, everything. They let it
okay,
weather.
okay.
Weather
Season
on it.
it.
Yeah, they season.
now
they
you
season it
literally
that way.
mean season.
They season it.
Okay.
Son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
yeah.
Yeah, you literally mean out in the season.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Seasons.
So, like, it used to be barrels used to easily be up in the year to 2 years because it just take that long to sell through the oak. It's a lot easier to cut it than it was at the time to sell it. Well, then that flip flopped. It become the barrel was, so they were cranking them out at a month seasoned, at 3 month seasoned, 6 month. It's standard was 6 months, but I hear a lot of people do them at 3 months now. Yeah, I pay an extra $100 a barrel to have all of my oak done for at least 2 years.
So you don't make your own barrel?
No, nobody does.
Okay.
There
okay,
is
so
no
that's
one
not
that
a thing.
does anymore. The only one that used to was Brown Foreman, and they sold their cooperage off.
Okay.
No one in the United States makes their own barrels.
Now I also
And then there's a reason why.
Why?
It's a full-blown art in itself. Like, I mean, it's an art.
Explain.
Oh, man. I mean, there's so much into the cooperage and running the cooperage of that it's its own business entity. Like, there's so much skill and art that goes into making the barrel that I don't know if you could adequately devote enough time to do both of them together.
So it is not as simple as throwing staves up,
There's nothing.
making the
no,
barrel,
God, no.
toasting it.
There's nothing
toasting
simple.
it.
There's nothing simple about it.
I'll tell you what, people, if you ever go to Kentucky, you're on the Bourbon Trail, obviously come to Neeley family, but there's a lot of things. But go to Independent Stave Company. They do a tour there as well. Now, there is a kind of a snapshot at Old Forester down on Main Street that where they kind of show a little bit of the cooperage and how you toast or heat the barrels and char the barrels. But if you go to Independent Stave Company, the science behind that and with Andrew Webrink and some of the things that goes into that is amazing what they're able to do now.
We
with some of those.
purchased from a really small, on the
Yeah.
grand scheme of it, a really small cooperage. A lot of our oak comes from Zach Cooperage in Athertonville, Kentucky. They distill in they make barrels in an old distillery, which is really badass. And I would tell you to go there, but Zach probably doesn't want you to go there because he's too busy making barrels. So don't.
And it's a lot going on.
How
Yeah,
many
there's
barrels-
a lot going on.
How many
Yeah.
barrel makers?
Well, I mean,
Is it a dying breed? Is it like there was 100 before, now there's 20 now? Or
I don't think.
I don't
think
know
so.
if it's a dying breed. The
The
thing
biggest
is-
one's ISC, Independent
Yeah.
Stave, and they're in this Lebanon, Kentucky, and Lebanon, Missouri. It's kind of funny. They have two plants. You have Speyside up in Ohio.
Yeah.
You got Zach Cooperage in Athertonville. You got Kelvin Cooperage in Louisville. Kelvin makes a fantastic
Yeah,
barrel
Calvin's
as well.
got good barrels.
A really good barrel. You got West Virginia Cooperage.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing?
I'm sure there's a couple other.
I'm
but
sure
the-
I'm missing.
The thing about it
I'm
is,
probably missing a major
the
one.
thing about it is, There was
Canton.
Royce talked about the barrel situation, like, for a while, like, they would sit out there with stuff and then obviously the production went way up, and to be able to get those barrels, there was a shortage on barrels, and if you didn't have barrels locked in, you had a hell of a time getting barrels.
That's why we appreciate the hell out of Zach Cooper.
Zach,
at a time when we couldn't get barrels, he made sure that we got the barrels we needed.
Zach is fantastic, Jessica.
And that, once again, that goes back to that, don't be an asshole.
Yeah, of course.
But it was my understanding was some of the shortage wasn't because, like, people think, oh, there's a shortage of oak, like oak trees. No, there's plenty of oak trees.
Yeah, there's nothing with the oak trees.
It was the process.
They
didn't have the people to do the labor, especially during that COVID period, so there was a shortage of barrels. They didn't have the labor.
You have to understand, a cooperage, I don't know what being in hell looks like, but a cooperage is probably pretty close.
It's interesting. You're
because
right.
Because it's hotter than, it's literally hotter than hell in there.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Got
wood
fire
is on
going
fire,
off.
fire's going, rolling barrels around. I mean, it's equipment, it's dangerous. I mean, it's tough, and they're all handmade.
Yeah.
If you have a 10-gallon barrel made and a 53-gallon barrel made, they're not really much difference in price to have them made. Because it's not the cost of the oak, like Nate said. Yeah, it's the cooper that has to make that. It goes just as much goes into the 10-gallon barrel as the 53-gallon barrel.
And just like there are people that have been distilling.
That's why it's an art. I'm telling you, it's a full-blown art.
Just like in Royce's family or some of these families where there's been distiller generation, there's coopers that have been generation.
Fourth generation. And I honestly, I pick his brain about what I'm like. I'll be like, hey man, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I want to do. I love, for instance, we get a cherry note that's coming over in our bourbon. I want to try to continue to get that cherry note coming over. It's like, oh, well, let's toast a different way. I think that'll bring that out, yeah.
I was going to say, the big thing that I've always heard about toasting is the level of toast.
Toasting creates all the flavor. It's not the char.
1 through 5.
That's right. Toasting, well, that's the char level.
Oh, that's char level. Okay.
Toast is a low heat over an extended period of time, and char is an intense heat over a very short period of time. So, like, for instance, char 1's 15 seconds, char 2's 30 seconds, char 3's 45 seconds, char 4 is a minute, char 5, alligator char, is a minute plus.
I know it might not sound like a lot, guys, but these are massive
changes.
For lack of better words,
we use a char 2 is what we use.
Yeah.
So we're a medium plus toast, which means we toasted for quite a bit of time before we charred it. Toasting draws all the flavor
sugars up
in the oak towards the heat. It makes them present because you have a stave that might be this thick. Well, the bourbon only penetrates halfway through it. Mm-hmm. So now you've removed that much of what can be your total profile.
Okay.
So when you toast, you concentrate all of it down there, which is what you want to do. Now remember, if you do a char 4, you've burnt off half of that.
Okay.
Char 2, you got quite a bit more flavor profile. Now you need the char 4 if you're running that continuous still, because you got all them impurities left in there. You couldn't cut your heads. Okay. And you need that activated carbon to filter it out over time.
God, there's so much to it.
There's so much shit,
so much to it. I literally, you would think of like some dummy going like, really? Like, I just thought you guys threw mash in a barrel and cooked it off. Like, that's such a non-educated understanding of it. It's a simplistic way of saying it.
I will tell you, Ryan, even on the moonshine side, there's some of them hillbillies in the mountains that might look like the dumbest, looking at them, but they are some of the sharpest guys when it comes to their craft and some of the sharpest business. Like, you ain't going to get over on them either.
Yeah.
I told you earlier, my grandpa couldn't read or write. By God, he could count.
Now, one of the things I brought up with him is there's a comedian, and I wanted to bring it because I think you might find this funny. There's a comedian that has a skit, or has a bit, where he talks about why the U.S. has never been invaded.
Mm.
And he takes it to the audience. People are like, inner city gangbangers. He goes, nope. He goes, for those of you that have traveled the country, the reason why this country's never been invaded is because of hillbillies and rednecks that live in what you call hollers.
The largest standing military in the world is the American hunter.
I know, and Kentucky and Tennessee.
Well, that's what the Japanese said. After they bombed Pearl Harbor, there was nothing stopping them from trying to go on and invade California if they wanted to. But what they said was there was a gun behind every blade of grass. Yeah.
But he goes on to say
that's why you can never, no matter what, you never give up your. And I'm not trying to get political by any means, but no matter what, you never give up your Second Amendment right. It's a great. It's one of the great rights that makes Americans Americans.
That's the only right that guarantees the rest.
That's right. Because as long as everybody has a firearm, you can at least defend yourself from your own government.
Absolutely. But this comedian goes on, and he's like, you could take the biggest, baddest, nastiest inner city gangbanger, drop him in a holler, watch him cry and squeal, and you'll never see him again.
Well, when you shoot a pistol like this, right? I mean, I'll tell you, I'll take a 30-06 from 200 yards, and I'll shoot you before I ever see you do this. You know?
I just always thought it was funny because you hear of like, I've had friends get turned around in some of the hollers and taken wrong corners and driven up on just front porches full of people that like all of a sudden a couple of them slowly stand up and they're like, shit, I went the wrong way.
Like I said, I mean, most of them
they're super nice, but
they probably invite you in, give you some cornbread.
That's what I'm saying.
You know?
But it's the don't cross me, don't fuck with me.
Well, so it's the trespassing territorial. Like, you don't know who this person is that's coming into their territory.
I agree.
Just like if someone comes into my house or garage, like, you know. By the way, Ryan, may I have another cigar, please, sir?
Oh my gosh,
I just crushed that one. Well, yeah, thank you, sir. I just
Have whatever you want.
yeah. This cigar that we had tonight.
The Micallef Black
This
smoke and
thing's-
release.
This thing's legit.
That's a fantastic. How you doing, Mark? That's a fantastic.
Yeah, this
cigar.
thing's legit.
So this has been a lot of fun because I've been able to dispel some of my own inner mental myths, and it's just crazy to me how little you want the science in it, but how much science is naturally in it.
That's what I'm saying. It takes a perfect mixture of both.
Yeah, but it's not complex science. It is, but it's not like you're sitting there with a thing, pulling taking this, and then it's natural science. It's mental science. It's feel.
Like when I work and grow my yeast, I go and catch my yeast, and it's a very basic process for me. I take an unfermented mash, I hang it up next to some blackberry bushes. 3 days later, the yeast is spored, moved into it, it's working like crazy. I can take that back, I can dump it into a mash, and it will work the whole mash. Now here's where the science comes into play. Is I don't know how viable it is, I don't know how much cell count is, I don't know what's going on inside of there. That's where the science then comes into it. If you want to keep and work your yeast year-round like I do, I have a machine that I then take, I isolate the yeast out under a microscope on a petri dish, and then put it into that machine, and it tells me this is how many live yeast cells you have, this is how many dead yeast cells you have, and how much bacteria is in there. And that tells me how viable my fermentations can be.
What are you looking for with that, Royce? Like, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for cell count.
Cell count.
That's what I'm looking for. I
High
mean,
cell count,
here's the thing. I like you don't want crazy amounts of bacteria at all. But, there are good bacteria. Lactobacillus is, to me, in small amounts, is a great bacteria to have in a fermentation because it creates mouthfeel. It creates that flavor, like that type of viscosity that you want, but you don't want too much of it. So, like, I like some of the bacteria in it, but what I'm looking for is like massive amounts of yeast, viable yeast cells to know that my fermentation, one, will be complete, and two, the yeast will do enough of its job to kill as much bacteria as possible.
So I know, like, and this is me asking, because I always learn too, and that's the one thing I want to make clear too, like, there's a lot of people that have been doing this for a long time that will say they're not an expert because there is so much, Ryan, so don't feel, but there is so much to learn, and I've been around some of the top people in whiskey, and I learn every day, and I learn, just even today I learn some things, but so I know that like different distillers with their fermentation, some take 2 days, some take 3, some take 5, some take 7. What creates, I know, other than the, like, obviously if it's contained, right? But if it's an open fermenter, what dictates why some fermentation takes shorter or longer?
So for us, it is cell count, so viability, right?
Yeah.
So the amount of yeast that we have present. If we have too little of it, it ain't got enough ass to make it through what we would call full fermentation, right? Okay. So at the end of it, we're going to see bricks left over. We're going to see sugar content still left. Now, the other thing that determines how long it's going to take is that bricks content. If we cook our grain and we only make 8 bricks worth of sugar versus 16 bricks worth of sugar, that's how much sugar the yeast then has to continue on, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
And I say 16 because that's like one of the ones we go, we're targeting 16 to 17% bricks. puts us anywhere between a 4 to 6 day fermentation.
Can you explain to them what a brick of sugar is?
Yeah, bricks.
We're not
bricks.
putting bricks of sugar.
No, it's
not
a
sugar
it's a
cubes.
bricks reading, and what that is it tells you the sugar content.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Someone might hear that and think
Yeah.
we're putting sugar cubes
No,
or sugar
no.
brick. No.
when
Yeah,
you're
natural.
when you're mashing in and you're cooking your starches and then adding your malted barley, your enzyme in to get the conversion over, you're converting your broken down starches into fermentable sugar. Bricks reading tells you the
Bricks.
amount of fermentable sugars that are inside of your mash.
Yes.
Is what that is. So we're looking for, like I said, 16, 17, 18, somewhere around there. To us is a target. That's a good bricks. If we're below that, we've done something wrong for
That's
what our
interesting.
recipes are. We've dialed, get a mash over and over. You call that dialing your mash in, getting it
Yeah.
really dialed in. So we know for us, 16 to 18, we're really like 16.7, 16.8. So we're looking at that. But the other big key aspect of it is cooling.
Hmm.
Yeast does not like to be hot. Yeast does not like to be over 90 degrees. A lot of you, when like I'll go into a distillery and people be like, oh yeah, like it looks like a volcano just spewing up in the middle. I'm like, I cringe because I know the yeast.
It's too hot.
Oh, it's too hot. That's why it's working like that. Like they can't cool it in that giant vat.
Okay.
So for us, I mean, 600 gallon, our surface, like we're keeping ours at 80 degrees all the time.
Interesting.
That allows the yeast ample time as well to be able to make those flavors that we want to make. And that gets us a complete fermentation in 6 days versus a 90% fermentation in 3 days, like a 3-day beer.
Very
That-
interesting.
They do
Yeah.
3-day beer,
Yeah.
Nate. Why they do 3-day beer, Nate?
Yeah.
For efficiency,
Yeah.
to turn it.
Yep. That's
Because
what
most of your volume is made in those 3 to 4 days. For us,
So they're willing to say we didn't get it all, but we got enough that we're going to keep going. We got to
The-
keep feeding
the
the machine.
complex
Yeah.
flavors
Yeah.
made in day 5 and day 6.
Interesting.
That's how I look at it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
3-day beer.
Yeah.
3-day beer is very. To me, a 3-day beer is very. It just tastes like whiskey, like very bland, very
Okay.
not a lot of complexity to it.
Cool.
Now, what is the oldest whiskey you've ever tasted that was worth a damn?
Oh, what is the oldest whiskey that I've ever tasted that was worth it? Well, I'll tell you this. I was in college. I was making whiskey illegally at the time. I was just moonshining, and I was playing baseball at a local school down the road called Transylvania University. And I left a baseball game. I was in full uniform, and I stopped by a spot in Lexington called the Jefferson Davis Inn. And one of the owners come up to me. He's like, talking to me, and oh man, it's cool that you play baseball. Trade. He's like, let me buy you a drink. I said, all right. So he brings me over a Pappy 23. I was only 21.
Stitzel. So.
I got, and this was
Yeah.
2010. So it's old,
Yeah.
So I got to drink a bourbon that was 2 years older than I was, which I think was really damn cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was fantastic. I didn't know a lot about bourbon at the time, and that was that, like you said, that was the old Pappy Van Winkle as well that really drew it,
Stitzel. Yeah.
I've been able to try a 21-year-old Michter's from the Real Michter's back up in Pennsylvania. Fantastic product. Oh man, it was so good. It was under the brand called Barrett's.
Mm.
Hell, Nate, what's the oldest have you tried any 25s or 30s
Of bourbon?
of bourbon?
No, nothing really beyond probably. I mean, there's is one of the other things to make clear on like a batch. There might be some 23, 22 in it, and there might be some 8-year, but the age statement is going to be whatever the lowest
Yeah.
Yeah.
whiskey is. But for a pure, like, I would say 23 year is the oldest I had. Elijah Craig, 23 year, single barrel 23. Back the old day. Now they have the 20. They have the 21, the 20, and then now you can get the 18. You see the 18 out there. I think Heaven Hell for that product still does pretty well. I like a little bit of that oak on it.
Too.
Yeah, it's a very good product for age. But if you're talking about older stuff, like if you're talking about some of the Dusties and stuff like that, like Turkey, some of the old Turkey, the Gold Foil, some of these things are pretty damn delicious.
The age Hirsch 16 year.
Hirsch, yeah.
They say the Hirsch 16 year, which was made at that original Michter's, is the best bourbon you'll never taste. It is 16-year-old.
Yeah. But again,
still
going
back
to
in the
age,
70s.
age again to me is
Also made
misleading.
on a pot still, by the way. It was cut on a pot.
Yeah. So
Where do you?
That's a good point, though. I mean, age, like when you make a whiskey, mash bill, water, yeast, type of still, and age, it's just a part of it. Age is not by any means the dominating factor of it. It's just a part of what goes into making that whiskey. Like I said, most whiskeys that I've had 6 to 8 years is the height of where they're at their peak.
The other thing is proof is deceiving too, because you can hide flaws in high proof whiskey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, when most distillers
We do as well.
or tasters, master tasters, distillers taste it, they're bringing it down to 40 ABV, 30 ABV.
We bring it down to 20%.
20%, so 40 proof, because that's where you're going to be able to say, oh, this got some flaws or this or that. But if that's that same whiskey and you taste it, you may find flaws, but then you taste it at 130 proof, you may not.
That is my one problem with some of the barrel picks that they do.
Yeah.
It's like you'll go in and you'll taste it at barrel strength. I've been on those picks.
Yeah.
But then like what you're actually getting is watered down, so you don't know exactly where it's going to be at. That's why we don't mess with ours. So if you come in and buy a barrel from us, it's the same damn proof as what you tasted.
They started to change that up a little bit now, where a lot of barrel picks, they will proof it down to what the actual bottling will be. But in the beginning, 100%, you'd go in, you'd taste these barrels, and you'd be like, right at barrel strength, and you're like, oh my God, I really like this profile. You'd get the bottling of it, and they brought it down to 94 proof or 90.
It was 113 when you tried it, but now it's at 90, and it's completely different.
Changed the profile significantligely. That water, that limestone added changes significantly.
I love, with any bourbon, I always like to let it open up. I love to, let her set a little bit, let her open up. Something we do as well, we'll open air some of our batches. So we'll take the whole batch, 350 gallons of it. We'll put it in an open air tank and let it set for 10 days. It'll decrease a little bit in proof, but it opens up the whole batch, and we'll mix it every single day. It's an old school technique. Not a lot of people do it. We like to do it, but I mean, I think it's incredibly important. When it comes to picking or selecting. I also like some bourbons are better proof down.
That's the other thing about it.
They
Yeah,
are.
I mean, actually, I can give you an example in the market right now for my preference. Now, there's people out there who will disagree, and that's 100% okay, and that's probably, for them, that's right too. There's no wrong answer, but Old Forester has a cast tank product for their single barrel, and then they used to be 93, I think it's 94 now, is 94 proof, or 100 proof, I will say that I will take that 100 proof of that a lot of times over the cast strength, because I think sometimes when you proof down, it brings out a lot more complex flavors that you get, that you may not get at that higher proof. And it just depends, though. Some people like that burn. Some people like that thumper. I like it on some whiskeys. Other whiskeys, I want to really see that balance and complexity. And the other cool thing, though, too, with like us being at cast strength, I get a cast strength hidden barn. I can add a couple drops of water to it, and I can bring that proof down and see it continue to
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Trying it out, alter it a little bit. Add your ice cube in it if you need to.
I was saying, ice cube brings, from what I've always been told in my experience, ice cube brings out more of the sugar, or the sweetness. And somebody explained it to me as the equivalency of a watermelon.
Yep.
Eat a warm watermelon, tastes just like water. No real flavor to it. But you make it cold, you get more of the sugar, the colder something is.
Okay.
And that's what it was. That's what I felt. And in the beginning of my experience, I liked that. A little bit more of the sugars coming out, and the ice cube worked for me. Whether that was true or mental, I don't know, but it worked for me. And then eventually I got to where I enjoyed neat much more.
That's kind of how my progression went too. I started off like everybody did. I mixed. I was buying benchmark in college, mixing it with Coke,
of course.
ice in it, and everything else. And I've slowly started to progress into neat, and then room temperature. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The more I went to it. But I tell you what, I love my absinthe on the rocks.
Oof. Ooh, absinthe?
Oh, I love it on the rocks.
Pour it over a sugar cube at least?
No, hell no.
Oh
I like it right on the rocks.
You gotta pour it over a sugar cube. It is straight licorice. My buddy would order absinthe from all over the world. Some of it had the illegal wormwood in it.
Ours does as well.
And my God, dude, that's just one flavor. He has showed me every which way to drink it.
We were just talking about it.
It
I just said
turns green when you pour suger over
polarizing.
Yeah.
You either love it or you hate it.
couldn't do it.
And Nate was like, because we're going to do a tasting tomorrow with some of Nate's.
The Canyons Whiskey Society tomorrow, yeah.
And I wasn't able to bring a bottle of the absinthe down because my bag was going to be too heavy. Frankly.
Yeah, well, the airlines, damn them.
My damn airline. Fuck me. But anyways, I told Nate, I'm like, well, I can just tell them, like, they can order it. If you love the black jelly bean, you'll love my
No.
absinthe. If you don't love the black jelly bean, just move on to the next thing.
What was some famous writer that would always drink absinthe?
Oh,
My
God, there's a
buddy
lot of them.
Hemingway. Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah.
My buddy would be like, "Oh, watch, it'll turn green when you
Yeah.
pour it over a sugar cube," and he's like, "Oh, you're not gonna taste the licorice, I promise." And I'm like, "Oh, you fucking liar!"
I will say this though. Royce has the most awarded absinthe, and well, I don't want to say, but it's platinum.
We have the most awarded absinthe in North America.
Yeah.
Now that's not a U.S. spirit.
It's not, and the French really don't like me for it.
Yeah.
And
There's
I
a
don't-
great story
and I
behind
don't
it
care.
too. Yeah.
But we bring our wormwood in from Poland,
Okay.
and our absinthe is very balanced with lemon balm. So we use lemon balm to color it green on the end of it, and that helps to bring some of the anise down to balance it out. The key with any
Yeah.
spirit to me is balance. You don't want it to be over oaky, over
One way or
proof,
the other. Yeah.
and it's the same way with absinthe as well. So, but like I said, I love it on the rocks. I pour it on the rocks; it looshes up really nice.
Yeah,
I
it
drink it
does.
that way.
I'd be willing to try it, but my buddies.
I think
ordered
you would
stuff
still
from
hate it. I think you would
France.
still hate it. So.
I can't.
I'd be happy for you to try it. I think you're gonna hate it. Try the straight moonshine.
I'll get you. We'll taste the bottle together, and I can watch your face. So.
You know what it is? It's like Malort for me, right?
Okay.
Like I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chicago River Water
Yeah.
is what Malort is.
Oh, my Lord.
I just, no matter how much I know friends that like it for whatever reason, have tried it. I can't. But here in closing here on the show, how old were you when you had your first drink?
Oh, God, 16, probably 15, 16. I had my first one.
Did you sneak it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what? Were
My
you
dad
like,
still don't know. My dad's got some bottles down there in his
Or water.
yeah, dude, they're water and ketchup in them, trying to give him the, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, he's gonna know it's, you know, it's
Oh, yeah.
whiskey's watered down.
One day he's gonna go down there. Hey, I've been saving this for you.
That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Got the and then you're
Also,
gonna be like,
Dusty, I
hey,
got from the '80s back here. Oh yeah.
here
for
you
sure.
go.
Yeah, me and my cousins down there sneaking it from the old man.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Was it easy to sneak? Did your dad care, or would he bust your ass?
Oh, he'd have I mean, my mother would have busted my ass.
Or more than your dad?
Yeah, all right. So my mother would have made my dad bust my ass.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah, that's
I
how it
agree.
would have went. Yeah.
I think we had a clubhouse next door to me. The Showalters was their names. Great family, and they built a clubhouse for us. And in that clubhouse, we had everything that we shouldn't have, which was chewing tobacco, cigarettes, alcohol,
Coke.
and magazines, nah,
And blow.
and heroin. No, and
Hank was on the heroin.
and Penthouse magazine and Playboy magazine,
Yeah.
and it was like the hangout. I remember we'd all go there, and I was one of the younger kids. There was like 26 kids on this block, and I was like one of the younger kids. But one day his dad was out there, and he found our stash. It was like we had it kind of under this carpet thing in there, and he took a chainsaw and cut the whole fucking treehouse down, dude. And that was the end of that for us. But that was my first experience and I was probably 8.
Now,
8
I
or
started
9,
distilling. I distilled my first stuff when I was 18. I built my first still when I was 18.
Okay. So one of my first experiences with liquor, we were over at my buddy's. This is why I said, "Oh, it separates," because my buddy's dad had a really, really old decanter bottle filled with whatever it was, and he would always refill it with whatever. But we had drank a good portion of it, and then just under the faucet.
Oh yeah.
And then years went by, and he had never touched it. And it actually started to look like it was actually separating
It's separate.
out.
Well,
And
it probably would.
And come to find out, he poured leftovers. We probably had 4 or 5 bottles in one shot of different versions. He kept it as a backdrop for his desk.
Oh, he had an infinity bottle.
That was it. That was
Yeah.
it. So when we were drinking, when we later found out, we were thinking back and going, "Oh my God, that's why it was so bad." Like it was so bad. He's like, it was decorational. I just poured the last little bits of here and there, and
There is a thing in whiskey, in the whiskey world too, the infinity bottle, where instead of killing off bottles, the last few ounces, people pour it into a barrel or something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
heel. They call it the heel, don't they? The heel bottle.
Yeah, and they create an infinity Infinity thing, and I love this, but please don't. But a lot of times people will come to me and go, "Oh, I want you to try my Infinity barrel." I just please don't. Like, I appreciate it. All of those are sitting in my cabinet at home.
Yeah.
I did not.
They're about to be they're about to be used for.
I respect it, and no, like yeah.
Yeah, I can't say it.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah, I was gonna say
no,
they're about to be used for something else.
No. But I think that there's all kinds of shit like that. But that's what I love about it with whiskey is just the groups, the things that have come out of it, all of these people getting together, all the stuff that happens with it, the fellowship. I mean, that's how Royce and I met, just through that, the connection and the community in whiskey, especially the people that are in the industry side of it and that connection. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having us on, and I'm glad that Royce was able to
Thank
get
you for
on,
having me
man.
out here, man. On short notice, thank you.
Thank you. I got one last question I asked to everybody that's here, including Nate. And I stole this from James Lipton's Inside the Actor Studio. I love the introspectiveness of the question. But I'm going to ask it a little differently.
Okay.
When you go to meet your creator and you see your great grandfather you're named after,
Okay.
what do you want to hear?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Huh. What do I want to hear? Did you ever think it would grow into something like this?
I love it.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
That's why I like did you, because I had never dreamed it would grow into something like this, and I would like to know, like, did you ever dream that it would be, something that's being consumed across the United States? You know what I mean? Like, that would, it's just cool to me.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you very much for coming on very short notice, but I think we had a great show tonight. I think we had a lot of fun. And I appreciate you going down some of the rabbit holes that we talk about. And hopefully you had a great time. It was something different than a normal show. For everyone that's out there, you can go over to Neeley Family Distillery's website. Just Google Neeley Family Distillery. It pops right up. Or NeeleyFamilyDistillery.com. And you can check out, you can buy Hidden Barn directly from them. You can also buy their moonshine that they were talking about as well. Tonight we were drinking on the Slow Fade, which is available.
It is still available.
And I don't think this one is.
No, that's long
was
gone.
not.
Long gone. That's the last bottle of it, yeah.
This was incredible and will be coveted here at the studio.
Yep. You can get absinthe and then send it to Ryan, too. He
Send
said
it to Ryan. Well, that's the thing, too, Ryan, about our batches. Like, if you like something, you bet, because once it's gone for us. Like, we're,
See, I like that.
Yeah, that's the way we're always going to be.
That.
We're
One
small.
and done.
That's
I
it.
like that. Because then you, for one, increase sense of urgency of the consumer to buy. But then you're also not like bored. All right, it's the same old number 4 that we make or whatever, batch 302.
Yep.
It keeps things fresh, keeps things going. Neeley Family's got an extensive catalog, so definitely check that out. And
if you get a
what
chance,
are you guys doing here in Colorado?
Well, I was going to say, if you get a chance, come down to Sparta, Kentucky. Come down the Bourbon Trail. We're open 7 days a week, tours every day.
Yeah.
We are in Colorado selling whiskey this week. So this is leading up to our busiest time of the year, just October, November, December for whiskey drinking. So I'm out going to meet with liquor stores, some owners. We're going to do a couple of events down here, and then I'm flying directly out of here, going to Rochester, New York to sell more whiskey up there.
Of course, we're going to go to Zach Top, though, at Red Rocks.
We are going to Zach Top at Red Rocks, which I'm pumped about.
You can't come here and not go to Red Rocks.
Yeah, I'm
pretty
damn pumped about it.
Yep.
So, for everyone watching tonight, thank you so much. As this was a later show than normal, and appreciate everyone sticking around. Hopefully, y'all learned a lot. And until we see you again, smoke what you like, drink as much Hidden Barn whiskey as you can possibly stomach, and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.
Thank